Thank you for attending the September 30th, 2024 special meeting at the Westerville City Schools Board of Education. This evening's agenda will be displayed on the screen in the front of the at the side of the room. Printed agendas are available for our guests, or you may find the agenda on your mobile device by connecting to the district's website at www.wcsoh.org. Click on our district link, select Board of Education, and follow the board docs link to our current meeting agenda. There will be one opportunity to address the board this evening in agenda item 4.01. There's a sign-up sheet located on the table in the back of the room. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. A timer will be shown on the screen, and if you don't stop after those 5 minutes, we'll cut the mic. And with that, Ms. Marshall, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Davidson?
Here.
Mrs. Lieband?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Here.
Mrs. Altman?
Here.
Mrs. Meyer?
Here. Will you join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up, we have the Treasurer's Report, Employee Assistance Program. Ms. Marshall?
Yes, thank you, President Meyer and members of the board. So first, I just want to say I appreciate the special meeting. We are on a time crunch with getting this in place before tomorrow when our open enrollment starts. I've invited Dalen Rock to come and present to the board about the Employee Assistance Program that Matrix offers. Our Insurance Trust Committee, District Insurance Trust Committee met on August the 28th with Dalen. He presented to them. We met this past Wednesday, and we moved forward with recommending to the board that we engage with this company. So Dalen, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to step up to the podium and share about your proposal. We'd all love to hear it. And you have quite a crowd tonight, so hopefully they're ready to be educated about employee assistant programs. Thank you.
Hello. There we go. Hi, everybody. Are we so excited to hear about mental health, all of the humans tonight? Yay! Because that's what we're here to talk about. So thank you, board, for inviting me to speak on behalf of Matrix for the proposal that we submitted. It's a real pleasure for me. It's a real honor to be here tonight to talk about something that I think is really not only important to me, but important to the community as a whole, important to other organizations that we partner with, and that's mental health. So my name's Dalen Rock. I'm the Vice President of Clinical Services at Matrix Employee Assistance Programs. We are an employee assistance program headquartered right here in Central Ohio. In fact, our headquarters is just up the street at Easton, so not too far of a trek from here. Matrix has been around since 1976. I have not been around that long, obviously, but it's something that I've grown to really come love and appreciate, not only in my role as vice president, but also in my role as a clinician. When I'm not doing things like this and advocating for this benefit, I'm a practicing therapist delivering services in a counseling setting to members of the community, to other corporations that we partner with for that mental health benefit. So I know you all have a wonderful, hopefully wonderful copy of our proposal that we've submitted to your team to review. And again, I'm really, really excited to be able to talk through that with you guys tonight. Before I get into the depths of the minutia of what's included in your EAP benefit, I want to start off with just maybe a little bit of an overview about what even an EAP is, or an employee assistance program is, and just in case some of you might not be as familiar with this particular benefit. So an employee assistance program is an organization's primary mental health benefit. That EAP, or employee assistance program is EAP for short, gives employees and their family members access to a number of benefits, primarily including counseling resources at no cost to them, right? And so that's really an amazing thing when you think about what an EAP can do for healthcare equity, when you think about what an EAP can do to promote the mental health of the populations of the organizations that have one. Most organizations do have an EAP that they're providing to their employees and their family members. Not all EAPs are the same, and that's really what we're going to talk a little bit about together tonight, is how you can take a look at the services that Matrix offers and how we do these things, we think, just a little bit differently. Because our goal is for you to feel as confident as you can in the services that we're going to be offering to your employees. Because, I think we can all be honest when we say that there's never been, a more important time to be prioritizing mental health. We see this across all of the organizations that we serve, where you have more and more folks struggling with mental health. In fact, the American Psychological Association cites somewhere close to 81% of employees will experience at least one symptom of a mental health condition in their lifetime. So it's a dramatic number of folks who are going to struggle with some kind of mental health experience, right? And yet, at the same time as the need for mental health has been going up, access to that care has not been going up along with it. Average wait times in the United States to see a therapist are sometimes somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. So it's really, really challenging when you are in need of those services, you want those services, you're ready to ask for help, and you simply can't get access to it, which is where the role that employers play in creating access to those services becomes so huge and so essential. It's why having a robust employee assistance program in place that creates the opportunity for your employees and their family members to access that care becomes so important, right? And employers do play a big role in this. Folks want and expect more from their employers than ever before. They want it to be a reflection of their values more than anything else. And we think that the programs that we offer really create opportunities for our partner organizations to do exactly that. So, and I think that's definitely something that's true of what I've learned in my brief interaction so far with Westerville Schools is how much that's important to all of you. So with that in mind, the proposal that we've submitted for you all at Matrix is what we would consider to be an enhanced EAP beyond what your current services might currently include. So I'm going to kind of break down a little bit of what's included in these benefits, how to access them primarily. There's some parts I'm not going to focus on quite as deeply because I really want to make sure that you guys take home the mental health aspect of it as much as possible, but I will cover the primary included benefits and our goal of making sure that access is fair and equitable. Cool beans? Yes. Wonderful. My wife makes fun of me for saying that, by the way. I don't know where I picked that up. So it all starts with the most important part of any employee assistance program, which is your counseling benefit. So through the proposal that we've submitted to Westerville, every single one of your covered employees, their spouse or partner, and their children up to age 26 would be offered 5 100% free, 100% confidential counseling sessions each and every year. Those 5 sessions can be used either in person at one of our 4 local offices here in Central Ohio. We have offices in Dublin, Easton, Worthington, and German Village, staffed by around 35 therapists from a variety of backgrounds and specialties. Or if they'd prefer to have their visits via telehealth, that's also included in that as a standard part of the plan. So you will have access to both in-person and virtual telehealth visits. Those visits, as I mentioned, extend to not only the primary employee, but their family members. And each one of those family members is extended to their own set of sessions. So those 5 visits that they're offered as a part of the proposal are not just per family, it's per individual in the family. So the employee can use their 5 visits, their spouse can use their own set of 5 visits. If they have children, they're able to use those 5 visits, again, kiddos up to age 26. In addition to us being a local partner, those benefits also extend to folks anywhere in the country. So a lot of folks will say, well, what if I have an adult child who's away at college? We are able to provide those 5 free counseling sessions nationwide, not just locally here in Central Ohio. So if you have a kiddo out in California who's struggling, they can access the exact same services as any other one of your employees anywhere where they are in the United States. Those sessions renew annually based on the date of their first visit. So if you were to start coming in tomorrow, for example, a year from tomorrow, you would get an entirely new set of 5 sessions, which is pretty cool because you never know when you're going to need additional help. On top of that, those counseling services are limited to a set of sessions per unique concern. A common question that we get is, what happens if I'm experiencing some concerns individually, and then maybe I have some family concerns? You'll get a whole new set of sessions for family counseling if you decide that you want to come in for that separate concern. If you are now experiencing an unexpected loss or grief, you would get a whole new set of sessions for that non-comorbid concern. So we really encourage folks to utilize this benefit, not just for if, maybe I feel like I'm struggling with something now in the current moment, but for things that we might anticipate down the road too. Mental health at its best can be preventative as opposed to responsive. We really view that as a key strength of our platform. Probably one of the things that we feel most proud of at Matrix is something that I referenced earlier, which is access to care. So if you remember the statistic I cited about the average wait time for clinicians, all of our counseling sessions, we guarantee offering appointment in up to 4 days, right? So when the national average wait time is 4 to 6 weeks, your employees, their family members, their kids are going to be offered an appointment within 4 days at one of our Matrix offices. So that access to care is something we've really, really prioritized because we recognize that when someone is struggling, the last thing you should ever have to experience is something complicated or stressful. In fact, mental health should never be complicated or stressful, and it's our belief that it's a fundamental human right. And so we've done everything we can to build a counseling program that encourages use because of that ease of access to care. The crux of the program is meant to be making sure that when folks seek out our services, they're easily able to do so. So how your employees would access our counseling services, if they chose to do so, would be through a variety of ways, right? The first and easiest way to access Matrix is by, of course, calling our number. You'll see it available in the proposal, and if it's not available in the proposal, I have additional materials I can send you guys after, and talking to a live human being. Unlike a lot of other platforms out there, we don't like to use automated answering. So when we call our number, human beings answer our phones, right? Because we recognize that mental health is a personal business. When you're finally having the courage to be willing to seek out help, the last thing you want to have to deal with is a complicated phone tree or difficulty in finding your way to a therapist. Because at that point, the most important thing is you getting the help that you need. Our care team helps people navigate seamlessly into the scheduling process so that by the time they're done with that call, instead of being given a name and sent on their way to have to contact the therapist themselves, they're scheduled directly at one of our local offices. And this is another key differentiator to our platform, is because we actually do the scheduling ourselves versus offer a referral and send people to have to navigate that referral independently. Not everybody wants to make a phone call, though, and we recognize that. So you'll also notice in our platform, we discuss how we have availability to schedule directly through our app and on our website, matrixpsych.com. So again, it can be 3 a.m. and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, you know what, now's finally the time I'm ready. And you can open up our app and you can click that request an appointment button and not have to deal with the stressors of, am I going to have to call somebody? Am I going to have to talk to a human at 3 a.m.? Because let's be honest, who wants to do that, right? Especially when you're in a moment of needing help. When you give folks a variety of means of accessing care, we find that that improves people's willingness to utilize that service by tenfold. It's really remarkable that the needs can actually be met when you realize you need them, right? And I know that that seems almost, well, duh, but it's not. You'd be surprised how often that's not the case. And so as a part of our platform, that's something that's always included standard in our counseling service, the ability to schedule remotely, via your phone, or on our website. Now, with that being said, mental health covers a variety of areas of our lives that go beyond just, do I need to speak with a therapist immediately, right? And so you'll notice that our proposal includes a number of other included benefits beyond the 5 free counseling sessions each and every year, okay? A key component that we also include is free legal and financial services, because oftentimes the stressors that members of your employees and the members of their family are facing are sometimes things outside of just their mental health that's contributing to that struggle, the context, if you will, that sometimes leads to the difficulty. So every member that would be eligible for benefits here would have access to a free 60-minute consultation with an attorney or a financial advisor. The only thing they can't use that for is suing the employer, obviously. But outside of that, they can seek out services for just about anything under the sun, right? We have a remarkably large resource library of legal and financial services. Members can access free paperwork. Members can get a consultation with somebody who specializes in what they're looking to be seen for there, which is really quite remarkable. Additionally, we also include fraud resolution and identity theft services. So if members were unfortunately having to face a stolen identity, recovering something like that, again, think back to this point, stressful, right? Stress contributes to mental health. Mental health is usually what we're here to support. So we make sure that all of your members are going to have access to those free services. We also offer 24/7 crisis counseling. Again, if we think back to that 3 a.m. moment, I know a lot of folks that I've helped over the years and that I've worked with over the years have been parents. And oftentimes those parents come to me and they say, Dalen, what happens if my kiddo's struggling at 3 a.m. and it's Christmas morning or it's, Thanksgiving or something, right? How am I supposed to be able to get them the help that they need? And again, in that moment, mental health shouldn't be more stressful. Accessing the care should not be more stressful. So through our mobile app, through our phone number, if you call us 24/7, 365, you're going to be able to talk to a therapist right then and there in that moment. It's included in our standard services as well for if you as an organization were to ever need access to a therapist on site in the event of a crisis. Now, my hope is that, if we end up having the opportunity to work with you, that you'll never need this, right? My hope for all of the districts that we serve and all of the organizations that we serve is that you will never need these crisis services. But in a moment that you do, the last thing you as an organization want to be stressed about is something bad has happened here at one of our schools and we need help. What do we do? So all of our proposals include the opportunity to have a Matrix clinician on site for a number of hours to support your employees through whatever difficulty they're facing in that moment. And we're not here to scrutinize that. You get to decide what you want Matrix to be here to support. It's also a fundamental core part of our belief system that education is paramount to growth in any benefit platform. When we think so often about mental health services and using those mental health services, one of the areas where we see people held back is stigma, right? And that's something that I could talk about a lot longer than you guys would want to listen to tonight. And we do so much to combat that, right? But at the end of the day, oftentimes people are struggling and don't know they're struggling. And so there's where education opportunities through your EAP become huge. All of our plans include a number of what we call educational seminars, which allow you to have a clinician just like myself or one of my team come on site and speak about a mental health topic, whether that's recognizing you're struggling, coping with uncertainty, overcoming adversity, right? Whatever the topic that you guys want here at Westerville City School District, we're happy to craft for you so that we can empower your members to recognize, you know what, maybe I wasn't ready to take that step yet, but because of this talk today, now I feel like I'm ready. Now I feel comfortable enough to do so. Normalizing what is ultimately a very, very common experience of struggle is a remarkable way to encourage folks to get access to the help that we so often need, right? And so that's something that we include in all of our platforms because we don't just want to be here for you for the sake of being here. We want your folks to use this. And sometimes it just comes down to recognizing that they can. Which takes us to probably one of the more important things I'm going to share with you all this evening, which is connected back to that counseling resource. Being willing to come in and talk to somebody and say, I need help is hard enough. But what happens when you meet somebody and you don't feel connected to them? Or you've been pushed along just to get you scheduled, right? Oh, well, cool, I got it in 4 days, but this Dalen guy's kind of a jerk. I don't like him, right? What happens then? Normally that would discourage people from accessing the care. And at Matrix, we don't believe in that. So our philosophy is this: we're going to take the time to get to know you. That's why we have live humans answer our phones. That's why we have trained intake coordinators answer our phones, so that we're only pairing your members with providers that are, A, specializing in what they're looking to be seen for, and B, that they can continue to see beyond their health plan, or beyond, the 5 free visits if they need to. Because it can be discouraging from the start if you're told, hey, I've got 5 sessions, but then you have to start over with somebody new after. We're never going to do that. And while the first 5 visits will always be free and always included in your Matrix EAP, we're only pairing you with members that you can continue to see on your primary health plan if you so chose to do so. That creates continuity of care and trust in the therapeutic relationship. On top of that, if you don't like your therapist, not only are we going to connect you with a new one, but we're going to give you back the sessions that you used. Because it takes a handful to do that, right? So you start with somebody, you use 3 of your visits to decide that Dalen's a jerk, and then you realize, well, I want to start over. But now I'm faced with a choice. Do I start back over and only have 2 visits left, or do I just use my health plan instead? We don't want that. We want folks to use their free visits. We want them to do that. So we tell them, the very last thing they say at the end of every single phone call is, if for any reason you are unhappy with your clinician or your service, give us a call back. We're going to give you a new clinician. We're going to give you back the sessions that you used. Right? Because everything that we do comes down to this. It's a personal business, and we're here to create a compassionate approach to mental health care, right? Because it truly, truly is our belief that access to that care is a fundamental human right. And by offering a benefit like this at Westerville City School District, you're empowering your employees and their family members to seek out this care. And that's really what we're all here for tonight, at least what I'm here for tonight. So with that, The opportunity would be starting for you guys, if you so chose to adopt that, would be starting tomorrow, 10/1, right? So as of tomorrow, your folks would be able to access this benefit. So I think I've covered the main highlights from our proposal here. And I do think that there's an opportunity for you guys, if you have any questions, for me to ask those questions. Is that all right?
Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, what other school districts do you partner with?
That's a great question. So we do a lot of the school districts here in Central Ohio, actually. So Dublin is a partner of us. Upper Arlington is a partner of us. New Albany is a partner to us. Olentangy, Columbus School for Girls, Columbus State Community College. I could go on, but I would say those are the ones you're most likely to recognize. So we do a lot of work with school districts. And, you know, we recognize that school districts are facing unique challenges, right? And in particular, the employee population is facing really, really unique stressors, probably more so than almost any other population I've had the chance to work with. And so I think we really understand some of the unique things that they're going to be facing in terms of helping them work with the issues that we think are pretty, you know, unique doesn't quite cover it. It's something that I have a tremendous amount of gratitude for, having the chance to work with as many educators as I have over the years. So it's a great question. Mm-hmm.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah.
I just have this is a very detailed question, but I just would
Sure.
love the answer to this. So you talked about if you have family members that don't live locally, right, that they can access the same type of care. So are they by default on telehealth, or do you work to find them a local provider where they are?
Wonderful question. So the answer is it can be either or both,
Okay.
right? So while locally in Central Ohio, we have our own offices that we schedule directly with, nationally, we do have our own referral network. So we do have providers in all 50 states that if you have, like you said, a family member away from locally who wants to have an in-person session, we have the means to do that. And we actually handle that a little bit differently than a lot of providers out there, where that would traditionally be a model of, okay, here's a name of 5 providers in Minnesota that we're going to give you, and you have to give them an authorization number and go on your way. We don't actually take that step. We go a little bit further. So because we contract directly with our national network instead of buying a third party, each and every one of our providers has a direct contract with Matrix, so that when we call, we're verifying their availability to make sure that we can get them in within that 4-day to 1 week period nationally. We're verifying that they're on your employee's primary insurance, and we're verifying that they specialize in what they're looking to be seen for. So while we're still going to offer them that name to make that contact, because I can't schedule with somebody who I don't have access to their schedule, of course, when they make that contact, they're going to be confident that the provider's not only taking new clients, that they can get in quickly, and that they're going to be able to see them. We do the same relationship guarantee as well. If for some reason they're unhappy with that provider, we're going to offer them a new one and give them back the sessions they used, same as locally. Telehealth is still also an option. We really always leave that choice up to the member.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Of course, it's a great question.
So maybe I missed it. How would those 5 sessions work if it's in a different state? They're getting paid by you, by Matrix, to
Yes.
see those?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So therapists that are contracted with us directly are compensated by Matrix for those sessions.
Okay.
No different than locally here, right?
Sure. Thank you. So just another question.
Sure.
So not that anything would ever, I hope, ever happen at any of our buildings,
course
but
not.
if there was a, on-site crisis, and you guys came, what does the follow-up look like after that?
So, our first step is always going to be making sure that there's some stabilization for the folks that we talk to. So when we're on site, our goal is always to protect confidentiality as much as we can. So sometimes we set those up as individual one-on-ones, sometimes we set those up as group opportunities. But our goal is to make sure that anybody that we're worried about, we're connecting them to the larger EAP resource as a whole. So that's our first step, is if somebody comes and talks to me and I'm on site, it seems like they're struggling, I want to make sure they know, this seems like an opportunity for you to maybe connect with a Matrix therapist, because obviously the situation's been really impactful on you, right? So we want to make sure that that care is happening. Additionally, every organization is assigned a primary account contact. So, you folks here at Westerville will have a primary account manager that you're in direct contact with at all times. They'll follow up with you and provide a stabilization report afterwards that indicates, were there any concerns provided by the clinician on site that we want to make sure that you guys are addressing? Is there an opportunity there care where the clinician thinks there's a need for follow-up care, i.e., do we want to have additional hours available? And then there's also a touch point, usually about a week later. Hey, how are you guys doing? Do you need any additional support? And ultimately, that is up to you guys, what additional resources you ask for, but we're always here to provide education and context for it.
Thank you.
Of
This is a
course.
really exciting program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think so too, but I'm tremendously biased in that perspective.
Thank you again. I
course.
also have another kind of detailed question.
Yeah.
So I noticed in the proposal, it does say matrix mandates the exhaustion of all the EAP sessions before any insurance involvement, which is great. My question is, if somebody is already accessing care and this program goes into effect, do they have to go through you guys and then go back to the provider they're already seeing, or are they able to continue seeing that provider?
Yeah, good question. So folks are always given the choice to continue with their established provider.
Okay.
The downside to that, however, is that if it's not a matrix clinician locally, because we're local here, they obviously wouldn't be able to use their 5 EAP visits for that one, right? Now, if they're national and that's somebody that they already have a relationship with and they're not on our panel, we are usually more than happy to add additional folks directly to our panel. But because we're here locally and manage our own offices, we're not able to contract with third-party providers that don't work directly for Matrix. So if somebody's here, let's say, in Hilliard, right, and they say, well, I have a therapist in Hilliard, I'd really like to continue seeing them, they will obviously, of course, be able to do so, continuing to do so through whatever benefits you have through your health plan. But to use the 5 EAP sessions, they would need to come to a Matrix EAP clinician locally. Again, I want to emphasize that locally. Nationally, we'll contract with other providers.
Okay. My other question is probably not for you, but more for maybe Nicole. Have we ever had this type of service before, or is this brand new?
That's a great question. So we do have an EAP program currently. It's not quite as robust, especially in the mental health space. And so we know as a district, we've kind of suffered a tremendous amount of loss to our school system this year so far. And just thinking about some of the needs that we have, our current provider isn't really meeting those needs. And so that's what brought this conversation up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have a question. Thank you so much for the presentation. My question pertains to the legal intake piece of this.
Of course.
Like the general consultations and counseling, is there a cap to the legal piece, or are our members able to continue to shop if they feel like they've retained a lawyer but it didn't work out? Are they able to continue to seek additional options, or is there a cap there?
So they get a 60-minute legal and financial consultation per separate concern, right? So if they're calling in, let's say, because they want to consult an attorney for putting together a will, they would have exhausted their use of that will consultation, if they use that one time. But if they want to come in again for a different legal concern, you absolutely get that free 60-minute consultation. That being said, if members use beyond their free 60-minute consultation and do want to stay with whatever provider they were referred to, they do get a 20 to 30% discount on their services beyond that. So it's really nice. We tend to encourage folks, if you need to utilize something like from a legal financial standpoint, give us a call and at least have that consultation, because you might find out that it's going to be cheaper to do it through us than through your established person. So while it is one per concern, those still also renew annually, right? So if you have a question and you called about a will a year from later, you could call about a will again. Yeah, great question.
Any other? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you all for having me. I really, really appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you for being here, Dalen. We
Of course.
appreciate you.
All right, have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Next up, we have public comment. Okay. I just want to remind everybody, each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. A timer will be shown on the screen, and Mr. Doran will call time when 5 minutes has elapsed. Please keep your comments professional, avoid the use of inappropriate language, and refrain from identifying individuals. That means praising and non-praising. Please address your comments to the board and not to the audience. Please refrain from calling out, clapping, and other commentary while speakers are providing comments. I'll provide one warning or a reminder, and the second time you will be removed. So we have a lot of speakers tonight. Okay, a lot of speakers tonight. So as I've said in the past, you can come up and state your name, your address. If If you have nothing new to add, just say what your position is, and I echo so-and-so's comments, and we will have that on the record. So first up is Natasha. Oh, you guys are really, Nafisa, sorry, with the handwriting. Jamal? Is that right? Jamal?
Yeah, I wrote fast, sorry.
That's okay. I'm going to start writing nicer all the time now after reading everybody's handwriting. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I got used to signing, so I just scribble it. My name's Nafisa, and I live at 144 West Ticonderoga Drive, Westerville, Ohio, 43081. Good evening, everyone. I know I'm like, keep looking back. A lot of you guys, either my previous teachers, I went to school with your kids, or your kids are going with school. So today, I just want to say that a few things about the district and the diversity that I can see in the board. Also, I want to talk about the absenteeism for the religious and how it's affecting some students. So like I say, I am a former student, a parent, and a resident at Westerville, and I am a taxpayer, even though I don't have the sticker on. I believe that, that everyone with experience is welcome to the board or any other leadership in the city of Westerville. I teach my children that they are part of Westerville, and Westerville is in us. Today, I seen a lot on the news, and I was like, I need to write and come here and tell everybody who is my neighbors, my friends, that diversity is not really something that is negative. Sometimes, most of the time, it does bring good things. For the school, Westerville is very diverse, and we have every race, every religion, and I feel like me and some of my, there's a division today in this room, but I just want to say that it is fair for all religions to be respected, and I feel like we also have to think about the safety of the children. Matrix, they didn't pay me, but I am a social worker, and I do advocate for mental health. They say therapist doesn't need a therapist, but we do need it, and I did use it one time. So I just want to say that I am not against no one, but also we have to think about the liability and how other kids feel. Like my daughter, I teach her, she's Muslim. She, learned the religion at home on a weekend. When she sees other kids leaving for religious purposes, she's asking why that is happening, why I can't go. So I'm just saying that we should think about the liability for our children, the disruption, and diversity. It's something that we should all be proud of it. I grew up here, my kids here, and I'm investing my money and my time in Westerville. So let's all welcome diversity and really be respectful. That it's sad to see some of these things like on Facebook and on the news, and I'm sure that there is a lot of division, but I hope that we come together, because July 4th, we all sit over there by the soccer and we all watch the fireworks. So thank you. Sorry if I don't make sense. I had a long day.
You're great. Next up, we have Jacqueline Fraley. Thank you for writing your last name again.
Thank you. My name is Jacqueline Fraley. My address is 3675 Panama Drive. Before we start, can we all take a moment here to look at all of the people who are here today? Can we take a moment to see that what joins us is more than what separates us? We need to remember we are parents who are asking the board for what we feel is best for our children. Many of us here know someone on the other side. We simply disagree. Let us remember that there are children in the room. My 5-year-old daughter is here. Let's be respectful to one another and to the board. I say this to both sides. We need to remember that we are adults, and we need to sit and allow the other side to speak, even if we greatly disagree. We need to be the adults we want our children to become. I am speaking here today on behalf of Westerville Parents United, and I want to state that we support rescinding the RTRI policy for the reasons we have stated in previous meetings. Our greatest concern being the disruptions to students during the day, disruptions to staff managing these students, and management of the RTI program themselves. In Central Ohio, there are multiple Christian-based organizations. LifeWise is not the only one. CORE, Reset, and Hope Strong are also recruiting students in other school districts. What's going to happen when there has to be management of multiple groups and assuring that no disruptions can occur? What happens when they are competing for children's attendance? The other side has constantly argued that not allowing RTRI is a violation of their right of freedom of religion. The RTRI policy removal does not violate this right. The Supreme Court ruling in the Ohio Revised Code state that an RTRI policy may be implemented. It does not say a school board is forced to implement one. It does not say the board isn't allowed to rescind one. In fact, many boards have rescinded this policy, including ones in our area, a policy they felt that was not in the best interest of their district. Families are still free to practice their religion. It just removes any religion from bringing added disruption to the school day. There was a lot of talk from the other side about the beliefs that our nation was founded on and that the founding fathers were Christian, thus we are a Christian nation. Yet scholars have stated time and time again that a large number of the founding fathers, especially at the time of the writing of the Constitution, were deists and Unitarian, not Orthodox Christians. From Jefferson, Franklin, Adams, Hamilton to Washington, regardless of their personal faith, the founding fathers felt that faith had no place in government. That is why the Constitution has no mention of God. The only mention of religions in the Constitution are exclusionary. Using the statement, a free exercise of, and trying to apply it to a school attendance policy is really a stretch. The founding fathers, especially Washington, frequently defended the lack of religious mention in the Constitution when questioned by religious leaders of his time. They felt religion was private to one's own self and separate from the government. During the administration of President John Adams, he signed the Treaty of Tripoli in 1797, and it stated, "As the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as in and of itself character has no enmity against the laws of religion or the tranquility of Muslims." The Pledge of Allegiance did not include the words "under God" until 1954. The pledge was simply, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Our nation is purposefully not a Christian nation. My concern as a parent in the entire time has been the potential pressure to attend and the potential for bullying directed at children who do not attend these programs. Last week, I experienced what I fear for my daughter. I stood here and simply spoke my opinion. When I did, a room full of adults shouted comments behind my back, jeered and glared at me, all in front of my 5-year-old daughter. After the meeting, I was standing outside in the hallway waiting to speak to the reporter, and a woman walked by me, looked at me, sneered, and called me a sinner, and kept on walking. I didn't realize giving my opinion on a policy at a school board meeting was considered a sin. This happened from an adult who is here from a group that claims the basis of it is character building. What will happen when my daughter expresses opinions about God to children without the executive functions to control their thoughts, behaviors, and actions that is supposed to be present in adults? These are the reasons I feel this policy should be rescinded. We want the board to know that we support you, and we know you have a difficult job and balance the needs of an entire district. We support you no matter what decision you make. We support you in guiding our district and our children. Thank you once again for your time and dedication.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we have Molly Elston. Welcome.
Good evening, esteemed members of the board. I'm here wearing many hats tonight and head to toe black. I'm a proud parent of a Genoa Jag, the secretary of a school booster club, and a proud promoter of public education as a pillar of democracy. Robert Frost Falcons are safe, responsible, proud, ready to learn. Whittier soars when they are safe, when they own it, when they are always kind, when they are respectful. McVeigh shows pioneer pride with a positive attitude, respect, integrity, determination, and effort. Alcott Owls get their high fives by following directions, showing respect to others, using appropriate language, keeping their hands and feet to themselves, and are showing up ready to learn. Faust foxes show pride by being polite, responsible, in control of themselves, doing their best, eager to learn. There are other examples. In recent weeks, I've been the guest at several PTA and booster meetings, engaging with their members. What struck me the most is, regardless of the school, is how easy it is for a child to see what makes up a school's character. It is painted on the walls. It is printed on posters. It's recited in morning announcements. Heck, Amherst even turned theirs into a song. McVeigh turned theirs into a rap. Each of our schools reinforce character throughout the day, and they reward it too with certificates, small medals, mentions and announcements. It all instills pride and a sense of community for all the children in each building. Lunch and recess are truly when students get to practice and demonstrate character lessons outside of the classroom. Are they showing respect in the line for food? Are they waiting their turn on the playground equipment? Are they talking without interrupting each other around the lunch table? Are they including everyone in games, even those who are different from themselves? That's real character. LifeWise Academy touts itself as a weekly class for students to build character. I question the need to leave the school, even for lunch and recess, for any lessons during school. We don't see scout troops, swim instructors, I-9 sports, or piano teachers insisting they take our students off campus during the day. Why should LifeWise or any other religious organization? The biggest question is, why would anyone want their kids to take character lessons from a group that is so easily triggered by the slightest pushback or questioning of their motives? They name call, threaten, and intimidate at these meetings. They encourage homeschoolers and families from other districts and towns into these meetings to make them look bigger than they actually are. These tactics reveal the actual character of LifeWise members and their supporters. This behavior is not character building. This is not even Christian. LifeWise uses your children to increase their members, not unlike a multi-level marketing scam. They are only concerned with the number of bodies in their seats, not the character in our children's hearts. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Elizabeth Knighton.
Good evening. My name is Elizabeth Knighton. I reside here in Westerville at 1096 Carousel Court. I have 3 children, one of whom attends a Westerville elementary school. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of rescinding Policy 5223. On Friday, I had the opportunity to attend my 3rd graders' field trip to the Ohio Supreme Court building in Columbus. During our tour, we learned of some key cases in the history of the court. State versus Schwartzentruber, 1989, the decision of which was upheld in State versus Bontrager, 1996, left me reflecting deeply on the issue of the free exercise of religion, about which we heard much at last Monday's meeting. In both of the cases that I mentioned, members of the Old Order Amish challenged convictions received for failing to wear hunter orange during deer gun hunting season. And in both cases, the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that although Old Order Amish may elect not to wear the color orange due to their religion, the requirement to wear hunter orange for deer gun hunting season, which is a period of about 3 weeks, did not constitute infringement on their religious rights, since hunting is not a core tenet of the religion. And Amish individuals had many options for hunting other animals with firearms and for hunting deer by other means, such as with longbows or crossbows. In both cases, the justices affirmed that the state has a compelling interest in regulating safety during gun hunting season. Many individuals last Monday purported to speak on behalf of Christ while insulting the newest member of this board and forcefully threatening the board with both legal action and the wrath of God. These actions dishonor Christ and indeed were in direct opposition to core tenets of Christianity, to love our neighbors as ourselves and to love one another as Christ has loved us. As a Christian myself, I apologize for the hurt that you experienced at their hands.
Ma'am, you can't single out a board member either way.
Okay. In the midst of this behavior, last Monday's speakers forgot that removing students from a public school in the middle of the day for organized classes is not a core tenet of the Christian religion. And indeed, that rescinding policy 5223 does not infringe an individual student's ability to speak of their faith at all. I clearly remember as a high schooler having deep conversations about my Christian faith with a Muslim friend during free time in homeroom. We conversed during this time for weeks as she asked me questions about my faith. I also started and led a student Bible study in my school, following the rules applied to all student clubs at the time. Neither of these actions would be prohibited by a policy rescission. In further parallel to Schwartzentruber and Bontrager, the cases I mentioned earlier, you as the board do indeed have a compelling interest to create a streamlined, focused school day. We have elected you to provide opportunities for academic excellence and preparedness for life as American citizens to all students living within our district, without regard to religion. Please move forward with that charge, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Jennifer Jury. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the school board and Superintendent Hamburg. My name is Jennifer Jury. I live here in Westerville, and I am the program director for LifeWise Westerville. It has been suggested by this board and several others over the last few weeks that release time religious instruction programs do not belong within the framework of the student's secular public school day and should be forced to operate before or after school. We've shared a lot of compelling reasons about why our program does not operate in that way in order to make it accessible to all the families that choose to participate. Also, I'd like to point out that the Supreme Court of the United States recognizes the value and importance of parents' rights to choose what is best for their children's religious instruction, including if they choose for religious instruction to take place during school hours. Release time religious instruction is specifically designated to protect parents' rights to choose religious education for their students during the school day if they want that. This parental choice is important enough that the Supreme Court protects it, and the state educational laws of Ohio make provision for it. The courts and the laws are clear. The Westerville School Board has a sworn responsibility to uphold the U.S. Constitution by retaining parents' option to release time religious instruction in this district. As I'm sure the board has noticed, there is quite a large number of LifeWise supporters here tonight, so I want to clarify two things about this group. First of all, some have suggested that LifeWise is trying to inflate numbers by bringing in supporters from outside the district. But I want to be clear that what the Westerville School Board does here tonight with this district's RTRI policy has the potential to impact every LifeWise program in the state of Ohio and around the country. If the board chooses to rescind the district RTRI policy tonight, the board is sending an alarming message that will attract the attention of RTRI supporters at the state and national level. For this reason, hundreds of community members from Central Ohio have chosen to come here tonight to show their support for the protection of release time religious instruction as an option for parents here in Westerville and throughout Ohio. Secondly, I want to emphasize how many people here in the local Westerville community want LifeWise and RTRI to remain an option for all parents in our district. As has been mentioned, Christian groups are not the only ones that are interested in educating their children in religion. RTRI is for any family that wants it, any faith, any religion. I have asked Westerville taxpaying supporters of RTRI to wear a sticker tonight if they want to, just to emphasize the fact that we live here and we do pay taxes here, and this is very important to us. The people that you see wearing these stickers tonight and many others are just representing the thousands of Westerville taxpayers who support release time religious instruction. These folks that are here tonight and hundreds of others in our district are carefully considering how we direct our tax dollars and what kind of trust we continue to place in the Westerville City School Board for overseeing the education of Westerville's children. If the board chooses to rescind the district's RTRI policy tonight, Westerville parents will wake up tomorrow with fewer religious freedoms than we enjoy today. While the board technically has the power to make such a severe decision, what message would that decision send to the parents of this district about their right to choose how their children are educated? Is the board willing to risk asserting its own rights over the rights of individual parents to choose the path of their children's education here in Westerville? Please consider these points and these questions carefully before you vote tonight.
Thank you. Next up is Miss Erica Lutz. Did she hear me? Miss Erica Lutz? Welcome. Oh, I see your dad. Well, your dad is next, so. Okay. Welcome. Just.
Hi, school board members. Sorry, I'm like staying front. My name is Erica Lotz. I'm a middle school. Middle school student at Westerville City School, and I'm speaking for the 522.3 policy about LifeWise Academy. I never been there, but I heard a lot of stuff about it.
Just take a breath. You're doing great.
So, I feel like LifeWise Academy is a great place for like Christians like me, for like elementary school kids, like my little cousin and my friends that used to go there.
You're okay.
I'm just scared.
You're fine. No, there's nothing to be scared about here. Take a breath. Imagine none of us are here.
You got it. You got it. You got it. From your heart. You got it. You got it.
I'm trying to.
You got it. Just speak from your heart. Speak from your heart. Okay? Just say it. Just.
I don't know what to say.
It's okay either way. If you want to finish or not, it's okay. Whatever you feel is right. You're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Erica. You did great. You did great, Erica. All right, next up, Mr. Lutz.
Good evening, Superintendent Hamburg, Board of Education, fellow people in attendance on both sides. My name is Todd Lotz. I live on Executive Parkway in Westerville, Blended Township. You can tell I'm a proud father of a 7th grader who was a victim of bullying, who took guts to come up here with that. You know, that took a lot of guts from her, so Not everyone has that courage on either side. And for the record, I noticed that Board Policy 5223 has already been removed from the page, which makes me wonder. And I'm concerned, and I'm trying to take the middle road on this because there's two sides that are passionate. But what I see as an observer is we are heading down a very dangerous road that's going to impact not only our district that I'm a proud member of, but also it's going to impact your guys' political careers. And I was doing some research, and again, I'm alluding to that part here shortly. But a few questions I had based on the policy as it pertains to the one organization who is attempting to follow this policy and is being discriminated, regardless of how you want to narrowly view it. Number one, is LifeWise meeting the requirements set forth in sections A through D? Number two, is LifeWise following the policy regarding transportation, complete responsibility, Board of Education and employees immune from liability per the policy? And number three, how knowledgeable is our board truly about this policy? Another thing that I've done a lot of observing, and it takes a lot from even me to have the courage to speak, is witnessing the amount of disrespect and contradictory statements on both sides. They include, and it's stuff that I'm trying to gather and trying to understand myself to gain greater understanding. Hearing a comment stating that an individual believes in God but not Jesus, more specifically a deep faith in God. My understanding based on my relationship with the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is all in one, is to help me understand how that contradiction goes along with how you're not only against an organization but children leaving school. Isn't that already done today, as in field trips, off-site rewards, other activities that are done during the school day that takes them away from the education? Number two, seeing and hearing others profess Christian values but then catering it to their own terms. Also seeing everyone who's attended the last few meetings, and I hate to say this, but especially the anti-program crowd that I have seen firsthand, more than gladly recite the Pledge of Allegiance, which includes one nation under God, not under Allah, not under Jesuit. And again, that's a disrespect. And again, the side that is anti has been more disrespectful than those that are for LifeWise and not want this policy rescinded. Point being, by even putting this policy up for rescinding, what you as a board and superintendent are telling our kids that choose, again, this is an option, this is not mandatory, is one, portraying that these kids don't matter based on our own personal bias. Number two, that our children who may see this as their best option based on their home environment are not valued, because this may be the only chance that they have during the school day based on a broken home. And number three, like I said, our leadership is, I worry about going down this dangerous path legally, ethically, and morally, and it makes me wonder if that executive session last Monday regarding a potential lawsuit is tied into this matter. So in closing, if our board is astute and choosing to do a job, like it states there, where you belong, then what I suggest is before we vote, bringing both sides together, having an open and respectful dialogue, and let's collaborate. I know that's a lost term nowadays in today's world, to find a mutually agreeable resolution that shows our actions match our district motto, where you belong. Our kids already have disruptions during the school day along with teachers and staff. Contrary to what was said about a policy concern having nothing to do with any specific religion or religious program in general, quote unquote, isn't that exactly what we're choosing to do so? Tell that to the Jewish population, the Hindu group, Somalians, Muslims, Scientology, atheist groups, the same way as LifeWise is being singled out. Thank you.
I just want to state, actually, Mr. Lutz, that policy's still on in the docs. It is. Okay, next up we have Meta Han. Welcome.
Members of the Board of Education, as you know, Ohio Revised Code Section 3313.6022 allows release time courses in religious instruction provided by a private entity off school district property. Zorak versus Clausen, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled that allowing release time for religious instruction does not violate the Establishment Clause. And the Ohio Student Religious Liberties Act of 2019 requires schools to treat religious expression similarly to secular expression and prohibits discrimination against students who wish to engage in religious activities. The law supports LifeWise Academy. So whatever you decide to do this evening, it is noteworthy that you have already denigrated Westerville Christian community and have dishonored their leader, Jesus Christ, by the misleading remarks made by many of the public during recent school board meetings concerning the Christian religion. This has given you a welcome excuse to eliminate the positive effects that LifeWise Academy offers to all students in the Westerville School District. All of this leads to an excuse to remove Christianity or the truth from your secular humanist classrooms. My hope is that on November 5th, voters in Westerville remember how this board has failed to support the Christians in this community.
All right. I'm going to apologize to Terry Castor. I accidentally skipped over you, so welcome, Terry Castor. Welcome.
My name is Terry Castor, and I'm a 77-year-old retired internal medicine physician who practiced for 43 years in Worthington. I have 12 grandchildren in the Columbus area. I care deeply about young people and education. I have seen the LifeWise program in action personally through the Olentangy and Big Walnut programs. I have been impressed and encouraged to see in person the difference that the LifeWise program can make in the lives of children. At LifeWise, they learn about the love for them that is taught in the Bible and the positive character traits that the Bible espouses, such as gratitude, compassion, sacrifice, love, respect, and most importantly, especially today, forgiveness. These are just a few of the 25 character traits that are emphasized in the program. I have personally seen the smiles and the eagerness on the face of the kids when they get off the red LifeWise bus. I see the love the teachers, volunteers, and bus drivers give to the young people. It is powerful. I know there can be logistic issues with getting the kids to the LifeWise meeting buildings and back to the schools. I also know that the LifeWise program works very hard to minimize disruptions and is very open and desirous of working closely with school staff to continuously improve this aspect of the program. Because the program is such a positive experience for children, it is growing rapidly throughout the country. If you suspend the program, you will be the first program since the inception of LifeWise over 3 years ago to do that. I'm especially troubled by the fact that the program has already been in place in Westerville for 2 years, and now suddenly it is in danger of being shut down. I believe that the logistic issues and other concerns can be resolved if you let the Westerville LifeWise director and LifeWise leadership work with you to resolve them. Consider the facts that the program is in multiple cities in Ohio and now in 24, maybe 25 other states, that it is being implemented successfully in all these school districts and spreading rapidly. This would support the conclusion that there are no implementation barriers that can't be overcome. As a physician, I have a caring heart. It grieves me that our country is so divided. It seems like we're sitting on a powder keg that could explode any minute. And you know, we have to come together. We have to find a way to come together. Absolutely. Diversity, equity, inclusion are being held up in our culture as important values. In my opinion, voting against a program that is legal and does require that the program is administered off-site, it is voluntary, it is self-funded, it meets a need, and is spreading, sends a message that to cancel it represents intolerance and exclusivity. Do you as a board want to add to that problem in our society that already is so divided? Do you want to be a part of contributing to that? I'm afraid that's the road you're headed on. So I beg you, I plead with you, please continue the program.
Thank you. Next up is Scott Zuni. Welcome.
Hi there, Scott Zini, we're getting there. Yes. Hello, my name is Scott Zini, and I live here in Westerville on Delaware Drive. I have a child currently attending elementary school in the Westerville public school system. This is my third time speaking on the matter of the RTRI policy, and the fifth meeting I have attended observing testimonies and speeches from both sides on the matter. In the last meeting, speakers in support of LifeWise basically validated concerns I have had with the program since the beginning. Many of us had mentioned concerns or actual incidents with bullying towards those who do not partake in the program, but we have been assured that that is not a part of the curriculum. It is impossible to judge that since I cannot attend a session, but my goodness, bullying from those in support of LifeWise program was on full display last meeting to a disturbing extent. And when the founder of LifeWise had an opportunity to denounce some disturbing comments made and highlight the values of the program, he instead doubled down on the bullying by using all allotted time to directly bully and intimidate the board for sharing their level-headed, logical perspectives on the matter. So when I see bullying from the top down, it gives me great doubt that this does not trickle down to children who take part in the program. I have also stated my concern that this program does not align with stated values of diversity and inclusion within the Westerville school curriculum. So when speakers last week in support of LifeWise flat out said everyone should be Christian and that Christianity is the superior religion, my concerns were fully validated. This way of thinking is not in line with the values of diversity and inclusion, but was voiced by several speakers, unfortunately. Aside from those troubling observations, listening to speakers from the last meeting, it's almost like we are debating completely separate things. We are not attacking Christianity or its merits. Lecturing those in attendance on the value of Christianity is irrelevant. We are not debating the values of Christianity. Rather, that teaching of those values does not belong in public schools as part of a standard day. To say Christianity is under attack is false. If anything, Christianity has already been provided extra graces by operating over the last 2 years, out of compliance, mind you, while other denominations have not been operating programs. And if you retort that other denominations could have been running programs, I will just say, I guess we are fortunate that others who may have founded programs like this do not share the clearly stated objective of undoing public education. This refers directly to a chapter straight from Joel Pitton's book, During School Hours. To be clear, I don't believe the teachings of any religious denomination should be affiliated with or operate during a standard public school day. This is clear, rational, fair, common sense, not in any way radical. I send my daughter to Westerville Public Schools and have the utmost faith in the system and this board that she receives a diverse, enriching, challenging curriculum that develops her character, strengthens her values, and fosters her growth. To think that she needs to leave the school grounds for religious instruction that can be provided after school or on the weekends is illogical and unnecessary. And on a personal note, I happen to be fortunate enough to live close enough to my school to walk out of my house some days, and it's usually the best moment of my day when I walk out and I hear the laughter and the joy coming from the playground. Why any parent wants to pull their child away from that is a mystery to me. To the board, I appreciate the rational, logical, fair, and level-headed perspectives you've shared on this topic in the last meeting. It was unfortunate that you were openly bullied and intimidated for sharing your perspectives. I am sure all of you have closely observed what has unfolded over the last several meetings, and to believe none of this division, conflict, and vitriol has the potential to play out in the school by 4th grade, 5th grade, or sadly, even younger students is totally naive. Religious programs during school time have proved to be divisive, disruptive, and distract from your ultimate goals of enriching our children. It's time to put an end to these unnecessary distractions, so please be brave, steadfast, and stand strong in what you believe is best for this school system and the community. Thank you so much for providing me the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you. Next up is Tobias Gordon. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Tobias Gordon. I live at 6688 Collingwood Drive. Been in Westerville for, well, grew up here, left a few years, came back because of how much I love it. If I may, going to divert a little bit from my speech. Just check the website, and it appears that when you go to the policy page, the documents, it defaults to an administrative tab, which does not have any details on the policy, so that's blank. But if you go to policy manual, it is right there, plain as day. So I believe a former person may have made a mistake. It's a very confusing document, I will say, to navigate. That said, what does a school district do? As an educational organization, it believes in science. Schools and teachers are constantly trying new programs based on evidence. Experimentation is at the heart of learning. The Westerville School District has been using the latest, best evidence of how to teach students to read for years. This science of reading has been shown to lead to significantly improved outcomes. The entire state of Ohio is now following suit because it has been tested and we see that it works. The Westerville School District has tried an experiment with release time for religious instruction for the past 2 years. Westerville tried this with one organization as a test and found a multitude of issues. But even if the experimenting organization had not been non-compliant, exposing significant risks for liability to the school district and safety concerns for children, the outcome has shown significant disruption to the school day and a definitively non-trivial amount of staff time. So what lesson should we take from this? We gather the data and we make a decision. While many parents have said that they enjoy this program, the same benefits can be accomplished via a multitude of other avenues which do not impact the school day or take any school resources. The downsides to the policy are multiple. We should therefore decide that the best solution, in my opinion at least, that the best solution is to rescind the RTRI policy so that the unnecessary disruption to student learning does not persist or increase as more organizations seek to use it. I am proud to see that our school board is taking an evidence-based approach to this situation. Rescinding the RTRI policy is not a radical idea, as some have said. Multiple other districts in the Columbus area have performed their own due diligence and reached a similar conclusion. I hope this board chooses to follow suit. Students have plenty of options for religious education. They can attend religious instruction any other time of the week outside of school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mary Jean Butler. Welcome.
My name is Mary Jean Boatler. I live at 65 Haddam Place West. I've heard many people say that the public school ought not be a mission field. I disagree. As a person of faith, I believe that every place can be a mission field. That is, a place to do good, to promote justice, and to support the welfare of the community. For that reason, my husband and I volunteer at Annhurst Elementary School. We tutor students who are struggling. We help kindergarten students on their first days of school. We purchase items for the classroom, and we back school levies. As a pastor, every congregation I served put energy into supporting our neighborhood public schools. In one congregation, we had a bus stop breakfast in a struggling neighborhood for students who met the school bus in front of our building. We developed an after-school tutoring program for 40 students with the help of 26 Muskingum University education students. In another congregation, we developed an extensive garden across from an inner city school to serve as a learning lab. Public schools can be places to do good work, creative work, life-giving work. But a public school is not a place to recruit or to proselytize. It's not a place where religious, cultural, or racial superiority should find a home. Our public schools always trusted the congregations I served because they knew that we honored good boundaries. We were seen as reliable partners in the educational endeavor. We trusted our educators. We were able to secure funds from secular foundations to support our efforts because we had a solid record of working for the common good. We acted out of our faith rather than imposing our faith. Let me say that again. We acted out of our faith rather than imposing our faith. What is happening in this community with the intrusion of this program is that learning is being disrupted, students are being used as pawns, and the Christian community is being shown in an unfavorable light. We can do so much better. In addition to the pressure our neighborhood schools is the bill before the Assembly with advocacy from LifeWise leaders to mandate this program. This will not turn out well for public education, but in the end, if history is our guide, it will not turn out well for the faith community I call home, and this grieves me. I encourage the board to resist the pressure and to vote for that which will maintain religious neutrality and excellence in our public school. And as I leave, I'm leaving you a resolution passed by the Presbytery of Scioto Valley representing 86 Presbyterian churches in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Don Hazley. Welcome.
Good evening, school board members and Superintendent Hamburg. My name is Don Heasley. I live at 212 Baranoff West. Tonight I'm going to be reading a statement that was composed and written by my son, Colin Heasley, who spoke to you last month. He is not able to be here. I'm compelled to write the following email about my growing concern and disappointment by the current Westerville School Board and administration to rescind the release time religious instruction policy. Earlier this month, I also spoke at a board meeting about the benefits that I see with the offering of release time programs in Westerville School District and the options this can provide not only my wife and I, but countless other families in seeking a well-rounded education for our children. I am part of a growing awareness in that the Westerville Board is seemingly adopting a subjective position that will disenfranchise children whose parents wish to include a character-based Christian education through Release Time, a program that is offered in accordance with federal, state, local statutes and law. As I said in my public comments at the August board meeting, it is important as a parent with children in the district, a parent who has choices for my children's education, that my voice be heard about your apparent decision to rescind the current Release Time policy, and therefore effectively be eliminating the growing LifeWise program for hundreds of Westerville students. I respect the positions that you all hold as leaders within the school district. You must listen to parents, teachers, taxpayers, and anyone who simply wants to share their opinions, and then objectively deliberate what is best for the students and the schools. I want to clarify my tone in writing this email so that you will not assume that I am one yelling, but appealing to the common sense of what is right and fair and decent in allowing families to exercise their constitutional right to be engaged with their children's education. I have been following the Westerville School Board's changing perspective on whether the growing Release Time movement in Westerville is appropriate for our community. When I approached the board in August, it was to voice my support for maintaining the current policy. Your concerns then reflected questions about liabilities over releasing students. However, in recent weeks, it would appear the stance has changed and that you have pivoted to a released time being a disruption for the student and to the school day operation. Either way, I find myself confused as to the real reasons why you are rescinding prior Westerville school boards who voted on and accepted this policy. I can speak from personal experience, as I worked with the former Westerville school leadership and administration from the origin of the LifeWise program in our community. LifeWise Westerville formally approached the Westerville School Board and superintendent and were directed to work directly with the school principals. Along with the 3 members of LifeWise Westerville, we met to discuss how we could efficiently establish a LifeWise Release Time program. The principals expressed some concerns about fitting a Release Time program like LifeWise into the weekly schedule, except during lunchtime. We worked together with the administration and staff from the Westerville schools to propose a seamless transition to and from the school day when the students are not otherwise engaged in any academic scheduling and conforming to and not disrupting the school day. After 2 successful years of operation and growing support in 6 Westerville schools, we have never been called out verbally or in a more formal sense for causing any type of disruption by any of the school personnel or parents of LifeWise students. Perhaps you can now understand my confusion as to why the reasoning that LifeWise creates any disruption, and if you have evidence to the contrary, you have not been forthcoming with that information or asked for corrective action. The concerns over liability or disrupting the school day did not exist until this past summer when a group of concerned citizens began to raise questions about the growing LifeWise program. This is strictly a voluntary and board-authorized release time program. As you know, LifeWise or any release time program has to operate with parental permission, be privately funded, and hold classes off school property. None of the concerned citizens, who have spoken out against LifeWise and suggest that it has created unresolvable issues have their children enrolled to attend a LifeWise class. It appears that the current Westerville School Board is making a very arbitrary and subjective policy decision. The likely decision to eliminate release time from the Westerville schools is not a good look for our school district or our community, and it brings into question the motivation that you have in taking such an action. Release time policies exist so parents can choose religious instruction. However, with the rescinded policy, several hundred parents will no longer have that option. An option we believe makes Westerville a better school district. Thank you very much.
All right, next up is Doug Jenkins.
Hello, my name is Doug Jenkins, and I live at 22344 Forest View Lane, and I'm here to speak to the resolution to rescind your RTRI policy here in the Westerville School District. While I was here for the meeting last week, I heard a lot of things from people on both sides of this issue. We also what appeared to be a heavily leaning position by the board through the comments the board shared. I would like to comment on several issues that we all heard. First, we heard about the disruption that is caused by LifeWise students going and coming back. It seems that since the Westerville program has already been running for 2 years, the kinks would have been worked out by now. LifeWise is always open to working to make things better and easier for all. I wonder if any board members or any of the folks supporting this rescission proposal has ever really seen disruption during these times. It works well in other districts all around Westerville. Maybe the board could actually hold off on their decision until they visit some other programs to see how well the transitions work. I would like to point out that the subject of off-campus field trips was also heard last week, and because of costs, not every student goes on some of these. Isn't that disruptive to the students as well? Second, we heard about how someone's child came home and told her mom that both her mom and her wife were going to hell because of their lifestyle. I would argue that this statement alone is a reason to not rescind this policy, as I can assure you that this is not, nor has ever been taught or espoused at LifeWise. At LifeWise, the students are taught that they should love everyone and that everyone has a path to heaven. There is absolutely zero discussion towards alternate lifestyles. Third, we heard about how there was bullying in school and that other students were made to feel bad because they didn't attend LifeWise. Again, I would argue that this statement is a reason to not rescind this policy, as you can ask any, literally any LifeWise student what is taught about bullying. They would tell you that it is wrong in any form and that adults should be involved immediately to rectify the situation. Fourth, and this ties into points 1 and 3, we heard about the disruption at lunchtime and the loss of recess. We heard from a young lady towards the end of the meeting last Monday that graduated from Westerville say how lunch and recess was the worst part of her day. She told us how the folks in the lunchroom were constantly telling him to be quiet, etc., and there was rampant bullying on the playground. She said how she wished there had been a program like LifeWise when she was in school here. Again, I would argue that this statement is a reason to not rescind this policy. It is quite apparent that disruption and bullying were here in this district long before LifeWise was around, and this program speaks to these very ideals and how they are wrong. The last point is simple. There were a few gentlemen that said some inappropriate things towards a board member last week, which both stated they were not affiliated with LifeWise in any way. And I believe I can speak for the red shirts that were here when I say that these gentlemen's words were inappropriate and that we do not support that kind of speech. There was a later response by someone that mentioned how no one in a red shirt called these gentlemen out for their words. The reason? Simple. We were asked to follow the rules of decorum, and we did. We did not interrupt speakers from either side as we were asked. In closing, I would humbly and fervently ask the board to really consider what they are doing and the effect it will have on the students currently involved in LifeWise, as well as future generations, if you rescind this policy. Please, go see how this program actually works before you take this one out. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Aaron Scott.
Hello. My name is Erin Scott. I'm a tax-paying Westerville resident. Go Warhawks. I'm also a professor at the John Glenn College of Public Affairs at The Ohio State University, and I am speaking on agenda item 6. As a teacher, one of the things that excites me and makes me proud to live in Westerville is the demonstration of civic engagement and civil discourse that we see before ourselves this evening. There are many people here tonight who do not live in our district, but have traveled far to support what they believe is right, Again, I am proud to live in a place where people have the protected right to show solidarity for the things they believe in. But after hours of community member remarks, the decision to rescind Policy 5223, absences for religious instruction, ultimately falls to you, our highly qualified, appointed and elected representatives of our school district. I'm thankful that you are the ones with the final say and not the voices in the room with no children in our district, because I have been appalled by the derogatory remarks made by some of my fellow community members, alluding to other countries as impoverished and morally inferior for not having Christianity as their primary religion, which are some of the most un-Christ-like remarks I have ever heard. Hearing community members openly promote hate fueled by their love of Christ scared me enough to be here tonight to advocate for rescinding absences for religious instruction. It's clear that rather than removing our children from our schools for religious instruction, our children would benefit from more world history, economics, mathematics, and social studies. And quite frankly, so would the adults.
All right.
I know I speak for
let's
many
keep it
of
down,
my
please.
neighbors when I say that Westerville is proud to welcome leaders from all backgrounds, regardless of race, religion, or ethnicity. And our voices will not be drowned out by the hateful, racist rhetoric of a few bad apples. Thank you to the board for taking your responsibilities so seriously.
Thank you. All right, next up is Ross Aldman. Sorry. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Ross Adelman. I am pastor of Quest Vineyard Church in Westerville. The majority of my congregation are a part of the Westerville Public Schools. I have been asked to speak on their behalf. Not everyone agrees at our church, but the majority do, and the leadership have asked me to speak on their behalf. First of all, I would suggest, contrary to what has just been stated, that if we want less of the racism and less of the religious problems that are going on, that we should actually do more religious instruction, not less. But regardless of all the opinions that have been stated in the room, again, let's just go back to basic civics for a minute. You guys are executive branch. You're not legislative branch. Schools are part of the executive branch. Your role, according to your oath, is to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution is very clear that RTRI is an expression that is consistent with the right of religious freedom and a protected expression. We can argue from the law whether it is an absolute must or a may, but it is explicitly protected. So by removing that, after having approved it, you are disenfranchising the rights of religious freedom for people. And our opinions that are expressed here are great. I applaud the fact that we have places like this where we can say this stuff. But again, disruption is not a reason for removing this. And if you do disruption as the reason, then you need to apply it consistently. So the question I would ask is, I've been around LifeWise, watched the check-in and check-out. I've run a lot of large events for thousands of people in the past. I know what disruption looks like. It is a very easy thing to facilitate this. If you're going to use disruption for a reason to take this away, then I would ask you, why will you still allow during Ramadan an entire school wing to be set aside for them? Hear me clearly, I want Muslims to have that. All I am saying is, if you're going to use this policy to get rid of RTRI as disruption as a major reason, then you need to apply it consistently, and that would be an inconsistent to not also apply it there. Further, we've talked about lots of ideas about what we wish religious freedom rules were and weren't. That's not your role. Your opinions on that do not matter. The courts and the legislature have already said it is a protected right. The arguments about whether it should be during school or after school, those have already been made. And they've already been decided. That it is still, even in light of those arguments, it is still a protected expression of freedom of religion. And honestly, one of the reasons why it has continued to be a protected freedom of religion thing is because it's a recognition that the poor, especially who cannot afford to do before and after school programs, would have their rights most dramatically impacted if RTRI were not a reality and an option for them. So for us as a board to want to project our opinions and legislate when you are a policy-making part of the executive is the wrong way to do it. We can have that discussion, and we're free to have that discussion, but the discussion of before or after is a legislative discussion, not a discussion for this body. Your role is simply to uphold the Constitution and to not disenfranchise the poor by your decision, which is exactly what you do if you take this policy and rescind it. Thank you very much.
Next up is Robert Simon. Robert Simon. Okay. All right. Next up is Chris Moore. Are they upstairs? Okay. Welcome.
My name is Chris Moore, a concerned citizen and parent. I live at 1092 Ann Lane. Let me get my sheet here. People don't know about several organizations like LifeWise, Reset, Hope Strong, Relationships Under Construction, etc. I've been a part of several of these. They teach character building and moral character traits. Christians and churches from various denominations are working to improve society, the family unit, marriages, and kids to succeed in school, in life, and have safe lives. With all the increase in drugs, alcohol in bars and restaurants now, increased crime, domestic violence, these Christian organizations are positively changing lives in students, in families, in our society for future generations to come. And as I said, there's several organizations, not just LifeWise, that I've been hearing a lot tonight. Harvard University did a study about humans flourishing. The number one factor they found was being in a religious community, whether it's Catholic, Presbyterians, Muslims, Christians, or whatever. That's where they are accepted. There's a family atmosphere. There's teamwork. So functional families and broken families and singles, who I deal with, can improve their areas of love, respect, patience, kindness, truthfulness, self-discipline, which is control, gratitude, hard work, etc. These are the same character-building traits which these religious organizations are teaching students today during the school time. Unlike the public schools that have CRT, the critical race theory, the SEL, social emotional learning, that's a big one with 15 harmful elements, the sex education, which is now too explicit and even steering towards the youngest of kids, the Marxism, the socialism, just to name a few. And you wonder why more are pulling them out of public schools and taking them to Catholics, Christians, and other home schools. We are seeing more students depressed and suicidal thoughts and going through identity crisis. And as I heard the man earlier talking about medical and behavioral things going on. Studies show religious classes improve attendance, decrease bullying, increase learning to graduate, increase their GPA, plus have Christian and non-Christian parents. They have to consent for them to go and leave for these organizations. They can't go without the parents consenting. So just like LifeWise, it says, so why do people reject students attending LifeWise, Hope Strong, Reset, and these other classes? If they're not sending their kids, they should have no matter. Why do pessimistic people want to ruin what's working for others? In the past 2 years as I volunteered for these different organizations, I saw good results. And I only know of one child in 5th grade, a boy, that wanted to stop going, and his parents approved because he was already going to church, already went on Sundays and Wednesdays, but his sister wanted to continue going, and they said that was fine. So it's very rare that kids want to stop going. I feel that these religious organization classes are helping kids, helping parents, whether they're married or single, helping society to let this, so we want to let it happen. LifeWise is a choice and not an elective. Reset and all these other ones are choices. They're not electives. So they're not missing core classes. They need unity in the schools and not division. We need to have the next generation make these wise decisions where we have failed as adults. We need to help these students take back and restore what the parents and the government have allowed to break them. We need to give this next generation a hope and a future. They deserve a happy, successful life. So I'm standing here to say do not rescind the policy of PO 5223, the absence of religious instructions. We want to keep LifeWise, Hope Strong, Reset, Relationships Under Constructions, and other ones. And also, relationships under construction, they teach to get education first, to graduate, then to work and earn a living to pay your bills, get married, and have children. But society is teaching them backwards. Don't graduate, don't go to school, so lack of education, they're not getting a job, don't have the money, they have financial problems, and then there's kids out of wedlock or with wedlock. It's just backwards. So may us parents and teachers learn to educate moral character traits to succeed in life, to make the world a better place. Thank you for listening to my concerns.
All right, next up we have Ala Dragan. Ala Dragan. Oh, welcome.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Good. That's okay, thank you for now. Good evening, my name is Ala Dragoon. I live in the Hampton Park subdivision in Westerville, 327 Wildwood Drive. I have a 5-year-old son who attends Westerville schools, and maybe someday this one will too. I work in marketing. A lot of my job is to understand human behavior and behavioral triggers. So I study brains. My husband is a pediatric neurologist. He has a bit of an interest in how the brain develops and works too, as you can all imagine. I am not here to criticize religious studies. Instead, I'm here to talk about why those classes that we call quote-unquote specials, music, gym, art, are so critical to children's development and should be treated as just as essential in the school day as math, science, and language. These subjects help us develop more completely and more fully. Science has taught us that music, art, physical education are in fact critical to optimizing the development of the human brain. Music, art, and physical education act as springboards or catalysts for the brain to better absorb all other learning. Gottfried Schlag, MD, PhD, who is an expert on music, neuroimaging, and brain plasticity from Harvard Medical School, said the following: music has the unique ability to go through alternative channels and connect different sections of the brain. Particularly for kids that have learning disabilities, music can provide alternative access into dysfunctional systems in the brain. Playing an instrument changes how the brain interprets and integrates a wide range of sensory information. Several imaging studies have shown that musical training activated the same areas of the brain that were also activated during mathematical processing. It appears that early musical training begins to build the same neural networks that later will be used to complete numerical and mathematical tasks. Now, gym physical education. Even short, moderate physical exercise improves brain performance. Studies indicate that regular physical activity increases the number of capillaries in the brain, thus facilitating blood transport. It also increases the amount of oxygen in the blood, which significantly enhances cognitive performance. Not only does movement increase cognitive function, but it also helps students get their energy out so they can settle down and concentrate better later. Now, the importance of art. Making art increases brain volume and connectivity between both hemispheres of the cerebrum, as music also does. But art has a special superpower. It can grow the psychological capacity for imagining other perspectives. A professor of psychology and neuroscience from USC said, Engagement with the arts gives you ways to think about problems as multifaceted and as being open-ended with no single correct answer. In other words, we learn open-mindedness, empathy, and critical thinking from the arts. One final thought here. We know there is a critical period in development where if we don't learn certain skills within that period, that window of opportunity closes. The neuroplasticity of our brains decreases over time. While we may learn new things as we age, we'll never be the sponges that we were during that critical period. Our Westerville kids, regardless of faith, deserve to experience the entirety of their foundational education. If parents feel strongly that they want religious study during the school day, parochial schools exist and are a more appropriate solution for them. As a Westerville mom and as a person who wants to live in a society that values a full education inclusive of the arts, I urge you not to allow absences for religious instruction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
Next up is Huda Hassan. Welcome.
Thank you. Little vertically challenged. Good evening to the school board, and thank you for allowing us to speak tonight. My name is Dr. Hassan. I am a physician specializing in psychiatry. So as a previous speaker, I'm also very interested in how the brain works and in mental health. I live here in Westerville in Three Forks Drive. And my son will soon be starting kindergarten in Westerville City Schools, which I'm thrilled about. So I wish to address the board tonight regarding the policy PO 5223. I am in full support of rescinding this policy. And I want to kind of talk about some of the points that the previous speaker has also brought up. The point that taking time away during non-crucial time periods such as recess, gym, lunchtime, these are non-crucial, and I do not agree with that. That is false. In terms of recess and lunchtime, these are crucial periods in which kids are learning. And the type of learning that they're experiencing, there's so many. There's social learning, there's cognitive learning, there's emotional learning, as well as the very important and critical element of physical exercise. And all of these are also important in strengthening their mental health. Recess and lunchtime offer kids a chance to get to know each other, learn about each other, and celebrate their differences. This also allows for imaginative and unstructured play for younger children, and a time to rest and rejuvenate for older kids. And this is how they can learn how to share, how to handle conflict between, schoolmates, as can happen, and how to better engage with themselves and the world around them. We know from countless studies, including ones by the American Academy of Pediatrics, that these types of learning are incredibly important for the development of children, and anything that takes away from that type of learning can hinder their overall growth. And we know that the COVID pandemic has affected all types of learning, but I think there hasn't been enough emphasis made on the real damage that our kids have experienced from a social, emotional perspective. There's been a lot of loss in that area as well. So it really does not make any sense to have kids pulled out of recess and lunchtime or any other non-crucial time like art and music when this type of learning is occurring, as it'll not only hinder their development, but also the development of the kids that are left behind. So I picked Westerville City Schools for its celebrated socioeconomic, ethnic, religious diversity, and I want all kids to be able to experience that and not to be restricted to only developing those social skills with a less diverse group of children because they're missing out due to going to LifeWise or any other similar type of program. The second point I want to make, and I won't call out any school board member, but I will say that as a Somali American watching the last school board meeting, I was really disgusted and horrified by the language that was used and the dialogue that was used. And we chose Westerville because it's a very diverse, very welcoming and open community, and anyone is able to be whatever they want, whether it's a school board member or anything beyond that. So I think that it's very telling that those that are in favor of keeping the religious time away policy were the ones making those very hateful statements. So what we should be doing is we should be celebrating all of what makes us unique. If how you treat your people who are different from you is by calling them out or bullying them during a school board meeting as an adult, I can only imagine how you conduct yourselves during a LifeWise school session.
Okay, let's let her finish, please.
So I applaud our school board for considering rescinding this policy. I'm hopeful that we can keep all of our kids together. We support you. We know you do a lot of great work. We are happy to, elect you again as school board members. One final point I want to make is that as someone who grew up in a Muslim household, who believes in God, who believes in Allah, I chose to put my kid in a public school because I want him to be introduced to all religions, not just the Islamic religion. If I wanted that, I would have put him in a private Islamic school, but I decided not to do that. That's for Sunday school. So I think anyone who wants to do that should put your kid in a private school and not in Westerville City Schools. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up is Luke Baumann. Welcome.
Hello, Board. My name is Luke Baumann, and I live at 7075 Cypress Drive. First of all, to all of you in front of me, I want to apologize for all of the hateful comments that you have endured last week through emails, through phone calls, and throughout this time that we have been dealing with this. Thank you, all of you, for being so willing to be the voice of Westerville City Schools and for our public here. Westerville City Schools preaches diversity, equity, and inclusion, but diversity, equity, and inclusion does not call for every human being to be a Christian. I'm a Westerville resident, I'm a taxpayer, and I'm a parent of 2 elementary students. I am also a former educator, a former school administrator, a husband of a teacher of 23 years, and I also have the unique distinction of holding 2 degrees in theology. And I am adamantly against LifeWise in public schools. LifeWise has proven repeatedly nationwide that they do not value public education. It is also my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that LifeWise's own founder has no vested interest in public schools as he homeschools his own children. It is the goal of LifeWise, tied closely with Project 2025, to dismantle public education from the inside out.
Okay, let's let him finish, please.
My daughters are not pawns, but they will be your future legislators. In the state of Ohio, over the last year, there have been multiple instances of LifeWise staff having been found to have been repeatedly put children in harm's way. Whether that is LifeWise Firelands having a director that formally texted sexual messages to children, or other LifeWise directors throughout the state of Ohio that cannot hold licenses given by the state of Ohio for their own behaviors in classrooms and in childcare. As a parent, it's my responsibility to bring my child to Christ. I grew up in a church. My mother is still a pastor today. And when I was a child in a small town, I grew up in Johnstown, nearly every single one of my elementary school teachers was also in my church. They were my Sunday school teachers. They babysat me. They watched me as a child. But not one single one of them tried to convert me to Christianity at school. They were teachers. That was never their job, and there was never a difficulty for my parents to take me to church. I was also a multi-sport athlete, and I was at church multiple times a night throughout high school and on the weekends. Claiming that you can't hold a program before or after school shows a lack of understanding of how the public school day works. Claiming that polling students midday doesn't cause a single disruption is patently false, and those making the claims clearly have never spent an hour in an elementary school classroom. LifeWise is a political machine hiding behind the facade of salvation. They are a pyramid scheme for children. I'm sure that many here, many in this room have a strong faith and want the same for their child, and that's perfectly fine. I have a simple solution for you. Take your children to church. If you want to get them involved, take them to youth group. Show them Christ. If you're really concerned, send them to a Christian school. If you want your child to act like Christ, you need to walk and act like Christ. My Jesus more closely resembles the minority in this room than all of the white people sitting here. My Jesus chose to walk in love, kindness, and humility. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up is Ann Nelson. So we have probably about 15 people more, so if you have nothing new to add, feel free to come up, state your name and your address, and if you support or rescinding or not. And
Thank you. My name is Ann Nelson. I'm relatively new to Westerville, live at 252 Apache Street. I'm a teacher. I am a Christian, a very active Christian in my church. But taking children from a public school to another location during school hours for religious education is not appropriate, in my opinion. Religion may have its place in the school, but if it's a curriculum that includes all religions of the world, I'd like to hold up a little visual that I keep with me with the golden rule and 16 different religions. Children should know that there are other religions that we can learn from and respect. If parents want their children to get religious education in a specific way, then I agree with the last speaker. Take them to a church-sponsored school, or take them to church yourself. Teaching the golden rule is something we all should do and live by, but let's look at it in more languages than English. Thank you for addressing the situation in the schools. I have 2 kids, one at South and one at Emerson, and I hope that they aren't left standing while half of their school leaves for religious education. Thank you.
thank you. Next up, we have Christine Stone, and just state what city you live in, please. Instead of your full address. I was just going to say, just state your city, not your full address, since it's being streamed. Thank you.
Absolutely,
Welcome.
thank you. My name is Christine Stoner. Thank you for having me tonight. My city is Worthington, but I am a Westerville South alum. Go Cats. I have 2 children in high school, excuse me, now. With LifeWise, the parent volunteers are not vetted well enough. One example is a man, I understand you don't want to hear names, so I will not say his name, but he lost, he lost custody of his children due to domestic violence. And I just question, do we want such a person around our children? Also, teachers they're subjected to very extensive background checks. To my understanding is an FBI standardized check. And the thing that concerns me the most about the background checks is that anybody can go to the LifeWise merch website and order a t-shirt that says LifeWise Teacher right across the chest, and it's only $15, which is really affordable, especially to a pedophile or a molester. Any child predator can buy one. So, I mean, look at the sea of red shirts that we have here. It's very easy to see that they're easily accessible. As far as the RTRI program, they're not using it correctly. I believe the intent of the law, the spirit of the law, was to allow people to go see, their cousin's bar mitzvah, that kind of thing. My perspective, I actually escaped a Christian cult locally here. Xenos, they now call themselves Dwell because of the cult accusations. I'm here to tell you that it is in fact a cult and religious trauma is real. So parents, you're clear of Xenos because they do prey, and they also prey upon, P-R-E-Y, children. I am still a Christian, and from my many years of studying the Bible, I can say that this organization, LifeWise, is blasphemous. They are grieving the Holy Spirit. I will pray for these LifeWise folks. Also, as someone else mentioned, it's a big money grab. They are backed by the Southern Baptist Convention and LifeWise Publisher. They have very deep financial pockets. However, with all this financial backing, the program still demands parents raise $75,000 to have the privilege to host a LifeWise group at their school. Someone else mentioned an MLM, I couldn't agree more. In addition, the Bible calls us to unity. Jesus would not be okay with the dynamic of us versus them, which LifeWise creates in our schools. LifeWise creates disunity by creating groups of haves and have-nots because they bribe children with candy. The kids that are left behind in the classroom are bullied and teased. This has actually happened to one of my close friends, child, and they're being told that they're going to hell if they don't attend or accept Jesus into their hearts. Jesus would be flipping tables on these Pharisees. These kids are young, elementary kids, in some cases, who do not have the capacity to creatively and critically think all of this through, all of the things that they're being taught through LifeWise. In my opinion, this movement is seeking to create the next white nationalist voter group, spreading white supremacy.
Okay, let her finish, please.
They need to get out of our schools, out of Ohio, and go out of business. And P.S., God doesn't appreciate being misrepresented. So, by people that are doing a big money grab and indoctrination. I just hope that something I said will help the leaders of LifeWise to repent. Thank you, board members, for all of your hard work.
Thank you. Up next is Allison Bear. Allison Bear. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you first to the Board of Education for their service to our children and our community. You are the best. My name is Allison Bear, Dr. Allison Bear. I live at 528 Lee Crest Place West in Westerville. I am a Westerville taxpayer. A little background on me: I'm a graduate of Moody Bible Institute in Chicago, Illinois, one of the premier Christian institutions in this country. I was also married to a Baptist minister for 23 years, and I am Jewish. I was an educator for 28 years in Warren, Ohio, and Columbus, and Youngstown, Ohio, where I taught middle school. I have taught at 3 universities as well. The University of Findlay in Findlay, Ohio, and Kent State are 2 of them. I'm a reading specialist, so I have taught current and future teachers in my 28 years. I have 2 points, and I have 1 question. The first point is that in my raising as a Christian woman, as a Christian child with Christian parents and a Jewish father, I was raised to know that religious teaching belongs in the home, at the church, with your friends, with your family, and those various people who believe like you do. The second point is, as an educator and one who has been countless hours in schools, and whoever said that education is teaching education, I should say, is the toughest job in the world. It really is. And every single person in this room owes their profession to a teacher. And I know what it's like in a day, and we've had a number of people talk about the curriculum in the day. There's so much that teachers have to do. And to take children out of a school during the day deprives them of the education that they deserve. And my one question is this: If this program and this teaching is so vital to their Christian life, why isn't it offered after school, which would help working parents with free after-school childcare? For these reasons, I know that the Board of Education needs to rescind 5223. And I will also tell you this last. No matter how you vote, I want you to know that I will vote yes on the levy on November 5th. No matter how you vote, because your job is more important. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up is Doug Krinsky.
Thank you. I'll give you a break from the LifeWise debate. How's that, like I always do? Just a couple points about the upcoming levy. So I'm concerned about the matrix. I'll tell you, I'm a huge mental health fan. I don't have to go into details why. But is there analysis anywhere that shows current health care program for benefits, and it sounded like you have an EAP program already, you know, what additional things you're getting with the matrix offer, and what the cost is for the matrix offer per pupil. I don't know if that's on the website somewhere. I haven't seen it. So I kind of throw that out there. Hopefully we'll get an answer to that. So once we get that answer, then we can pass that along in our Facebook group page, Westerville Levy Concerns, so everybody understands what the impact to the levy might be per work-on. If it's an additional cost, what does that cost? Same thing if you rescind the policy on LifeWise. Is there a cost benefit to that for the district? Does it cost more because you anticipate a legal expense? So I guess I'm interested in those two programs you're talking about tonight. What is the financial impact, particularly because there's a huge levy that's coming up in about 5 weeks, and everybody needs to know what's the impact of those two programs. So if we can get that information out either tonight or on the website, I'm very interested to understand those costs for, you know, homeowners, senior citizens, renters. And just in my closing remark, I'll keep it short, I'm an absolute vote no on the levy, no matter where you vote on that rescinding. So, thanks.
All right, up next is Cheryl Hoffman. Welcome. Remember, just state what city you live in, please. Thank you.
Good evening. Cheryl Hoffman. I'm a Westerville City Schools resident, parent of 3 graduates of Westerville City Schools, a grandparent of 4 of 6 grandchildren who will attend Westerville City Schools, and a semi-retired speech-language pathologist who has worked for over 35 years and continues to work periodically in the public schools. I'm a strong advocate for public education and a firm believer in the separation of church and state. I'm also a firm believer in the freedom to participate or not in the religious faith of one's choosing. When our children were growing up, we made it a priority to get them in Sunday school every week that we were in town, and youth group as teens. I'm not interested in addressing the issues, the religious issues of RTI or from a religious standpoint, or LifeWise Academy in particular, although I do have many reservations about the specific program. I think there are other important issues that come into play when some students are removed from a school campus for a special period of religious instruction that someone who is not immersed in the day-to-day school setting may not take into consideration. Public schools are no longer like those of my youth, nor those that I served at the beginning of my career. When I was in the 3rd grade in an area suburb, our public school classroom teacher led us in Christian prayer each morning. It was routinely explained to us that Chucky, the only Jewish child in our school and in my class, could not participate in our prayers, could not sing the Christmas hymns that we sang through the holiday season, would not have Santa visiting his house, would not be celebrating Easter, etc. As children, we pitied Chucky, and we voiced our pity to him in a kind, not bullying way. As an adult, I can only imagine how othered Chucky must have felt. When I began my career in the public schools, I worked in poor rural Appalachian schools where nearly all students were white, practicing Christians, or were of Christian heritage. There was no diversity. It was comfortable. It was comfortable for everyone there. There were no challenges like we're experiencing now. After we returned to Central Ohio, I began working in what was an affluent area, predominantly white suburban school district. The population of that school district quickly began to change, as it did in Westerville as well. Not only were numerous races and nationalities represented, but numerous faith backgrounds were also. I believe this has brought a richness to our communities, and this transition certainly changed my awareness of how easy it is for children to feel excluded, less than, ashamed of their own backgrounds, and vulnerable to the innocent comments of other children, kind of like those that we made to Chucky back in 3rd grade. When the adults in their schools do not demonstrate and foster respect for the cultural and religious backgrounds of the families in attendance. Public schools aim, or should be aiming, to create respectful, welcoming environments for all so that the primary purpose of education can be achieved. It would be difficult for many children to understand why they cannot participate in what to them might appear to be a special fun field trip that only some of their peers can attend. Does this put the school staff in the position of having to explain that a special program is only for children who practice a certain religion? Because children ask those questions. I've experienced those. Does this put parents of young children in the position of having to explain that only children of a religion other than their own or whose families share the same beliefs get to take part in these special activities during the school day? Will this result in numerous other faith-based or secular humanist groups implementing their own programs? Such programs occurring within the school day are exclusionary by nature and do not contribute to the inclusionary environments I hope Westerville City Schools strives to create in its buildings. In addition to the potentially damaging exclusivity of specific faith-based programs pulling some students outside the school building for portions of the day, I would like to address the more practical issues and their impact on the educational day and the staff and the students. I have heard repeatedly that the particular program currently being discussed, although this could apply to any program removing large numbers of children during the school day, only impacts lunch and recess and not the student's instructional day. Someone earlier spoke to what happens during lunch and recess from a cognitive, social, emotional standpoint. As a speech language pathologist, I attest that lunch and recess are part of the instructional day. I am confident that occupational therapists, physical therapists, and guidance counselors would tell you the same thing. I worked today, and I co-treated with the occupational therapist 2 students during lunch to address the goals on their IEPs. At the same time, the office of the guidance counselor was across the hall from me. She had groups going on during every single lunch period. If these students are leaving various campuses on various days, it limits access to these students and/or the ability to create specific program addressing their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ann Schroyer. Welcome.
Hello. Sorry, I need my old lady glasses. My name is Ann Schroyer. I live here in Westerville. Thank you to the board. We appreciate the time to talk. I talk fast, so hopefully I'll be quick. I'm here again to voice support for ending the RTI in the Westerville district. While I did grow up in a church in Northwest Ohio, I also grew up near a cult. They had branded buses. They had a logo painted on buildings, silos, and barns. They recruited young people and also required hefty donations from their young recruits. And I say this as a contrast and evidence of why faith-based instruction has no place in the school day, because there are so many different faiths, and how do you decide who is going to be able to come and take children out of school? To my knowledge, there is no real quality control or tests for the different brands of faith who want access to Westerville school children during the day. Can we even refuse a cult from providing RTI during the school day to come and recruit with their branded materials and buses and logos? I also question the disruption, which we've heard some great speakers talk about. If we have this multitude of RTI programs that want to come in, are parents going to have to schedule doctor's appointments away from lunch and recess times purposefully, which is a big chunk of the day when you include all the grades? That's a huge time frame. They're going to have to not schedule doctor's appointments during that time because they won't be able to get into the office to be able to sign out their children because the admins are going to be so busy signing out multiple programs because we can't put a quality judgment on which ones are good or bad and can be allowed or not. And also, excuse me, at Robert Frost, we are allowed to have lunch with our children during the day, which is great. Is this program going to have to end because, again, our admin, unless we're going to hire another admin, which will be an added cost because of this program and these programs, will this program have to end because there won't be time to sign parents in and out for the day to have lunch with their children? So this program would also have to end. So again, I believe my child at Robert Frost does get good quality character education. He listens to them more than me most of the time. His teachers, counselors, and classmates, and principal, and staff all promote the Falcon 5, which we heard someone else mention earlier, to be safe, respectful, responsible, proud, and ready to learn, which I value greatly. Thank you so much for your work, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Dr. Jean Black. Welcome.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Jeannie Black. I reside in Westerville with my family. I'm a taxpayer of Westerville. I'm a Proud South class of '98 graduate. My kiddo is attending Westerville North. We're very excited about that. He's a sophomore. He's doing amazing things over there. My mantra is communication is king, collaboration is queen, and celebration is everything. I feel like we are collaborating, we are communicating, and I hope that we get to the celebrating part soon. That said, I echo Jennifer Fraley and some of the other folks that came up before me in black shirts. I also would like you to rescind the RTRI proposals that are out there. I want to issue an apology for the folks on the board and in this audience for the blatant racism, threats, and lack of inclusion we've heard in this and previous meetings regarding this topic. It's absurd. We're adults. We should be adulting. Some of us volunteer in our community and show our hearts and faith through our good works. As you've heard previously, and I echo again, there are some Christians in our community that do not agree with this policy. What do we do when we have a mistake and we find that it has been made? We erase it, we fix it, we correct it, we move on. And I appreciate all of you for your time today.
Thank you. Next up is Khalid, I think this is a T, Tarani? Was I close? No, my apologies. Please correct me.
I'll correct you here in a second. Let me try to remember my name. I always thought, my parents would have done me a favor if they named me Bob, but they did not. Well, my name is Khalid Turani, or in my language, Khalid Turani. Good afternoon, board members and Superintendent Hamburg. I serve as the Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, Ohio chapter, also known as CARE Ohio. I'm here to share my gratitude to the Westerville School District for its continued support of families of all religious backgrounds. This district engages hundreds of Muslim children and their families, a community I and my organization work tirelessly to support. At CARE Ohio, we pride ourselves on fighting against religious discrimination and encouraging stakeholders to proactively promote inclusive policies. Some of the sentiment expressed tonight and in previous board meetings centered around this idea of religious discrimination. However, after reviewing the policy closely, I found it to neither promote nor deter religious belief. I believe there are numerous opportunities for any group, Christians, Muslims, Jews, or any faith, to engage students outside of school hours. Lastly, I'm deeply concerned by comments made last week that insinuated this district hires board members because of their faith or ethnicity. It is disturbing that such comments were made by members of the public. This is why I'm here today to express my support for policies where students and families of all religious backgrounds and identities are treated equitably and respectfully. And about me, My father was born about literally 10 yards from the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and about 1 mile from the place where Jesus walked on water. My mother was born literally 20 yards from the bank of the Jordan River, about 5 miles from where Jesus supposedly was baptized in the Jordan River. Probably, most likely, Jesus looks like me more than he looks like you. However, your hypersensitivity to the term Allah, and being a college student who graduated from a Baptist college, and having attended churches in my native land in the Middle East where worship is done in Arabic, you know who they pray to? They pray to Allah in the church. When they read their Bible, they recite the name of Allah for God. So don't be hypersensitive to the term Allah, because it is exactly the translation of the word God from the Arabic language into the English language. Your hypersensitivity and frankly your ignorance is a cause of concern for me, that you do not understand which God do we worship or which God do we not worship. I think it is an opportunity for you to educate yourself by reaching out to your Muslim neighbors, to the people who might not look like you and who probably would have looked like Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Lauren Darst. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, board, for your time here today. Are you able to hear me without taking off my mask? Okay. I had many more remarks ready and prepared, but the fine gentleman who just spoke before me spoke to one of my main ones, which was the name for God. So thank you to, if you could pass along my gratitude to him. And the gentleman who had two degrees in theology. I co-sign every word that he said. So with that, I'm going to come up with the one other thing that I had. Oh, I'm Lauren Darst. Goodness, I'm sorry. I'm Lauren Darst. I live in Westerville. I've been a pastor for almost 20 years, and I do have a degree, a Master of Divinity, for my ordination. So I'm just going to go to the one point that was most important to me, and that was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry on behalf of people who call themselves Christians, behaving in the way they have here, not for the sake of the children, but for the sake of their agendas that harm many people. Thank you for your time. I fully support rescinding this item, and I am sorry from the bottom of my heart for those who share my faith in my Savior to behave in such an opposite, anti-way to Him. That's all.
Thank you. Stephen Childers. Welcome.
Good evening, board members. I very much enjoyed much of the testimony from the gentleman from CARE. He's 100% correct in that Jesus would very much look like him. He was born a Jew of Middle Eastern descendants. Absolutely believe that completely. I follow Jesus, however, not because of the way he looked during his earthly ministry. I follow him because he is the living and true God. And that is all that matters. I am a Westerville taxpayer. Last week, we witnessed the Board of Education announce their intention to bar LifeWise, a Christian organization from Westerville schools. If you read all of the announcements, you'll see that they're rescinding policy P05223, absence for religious instruction. It is always interesting to see how people who do things they know are wrong never come out and plainly state what it is they're doing. Last week, I listened to the board and others in the community talk about how religious instruction has no place during school hours, with some complaining how they have children impacted by some way or another by this program. Let's be clear, LifeWise operates off-school property with private funds and with parental permission. I find it ironic that in the USA, which was founded by Christians, based largely on biblical principles, as Christians, we recognize that God gave each of us free will with the purpose of making us in his image and not robots. We have the freedom to choose him. Christians also recognize that God entrusted children to their parents and not the state. I thank God that our country was founded on those principles. Unlike ancient Rome or so many other places in the world, in the USA, we are not lorded over by our public servants. In fact, our founders flipped that idea on its head. In this country, our public servants are answerable to and work for we the people. As is the case with all totalitarians, they believe that children are theirs, and we answer to them. Public schools are paid for by taxpayers, and as such must understand that the answer to the communities that support them. If you as a parent are offended by Jesus Christ, don't allow your children to participate in LifeWise. But what right do you have to tell other families that they cannot allow their children to learn about the Lord of the universe? And for the school board, what right do you have to stand in the way of the Great Commission of Jesus Christ? When parents approve of this ministry to their children. And last week, I grossly misrepresented it. My point is the boastful appointment of somebody that was a Muslim activist at the same time.
Sir, this is your warning.
That's fine.
Do it again and you will be removed. Okay, guys, please.
I'll reclaim my time.
Please, guys.
But at the same time, and listen to the tough people here. What side are they on? Now, at the same time you do this, you're pushing Jesus Christ out. As Christians, I think we need to be honest, speak truth plainly, and not fear. I don't care that you appointed a Muslim. I care that...
Sir, you're done. You're done. All right, next up is Ricky Coons-Monaco. Welcome.
Hi, can you all hear me? Okay. My name is Ricky Coons-Monaco. I have 3 children here in Westerville, where we reside. I wanted to come up and speak today. I spoke last week because I heard a lot about how this movement was so radical by the board. And I do not envy any of you. I work in executive leadership outside of volunteering with my children and doing everything else, so I completely understand how difficult all of this is, sitting here listening and making these decisions. But I come from Seattle, and this is not even something that would have ever come up out there. And I don't think that a lot of people even realize that, and I would like everybody here to kind of hear and acknowledge that. We don't have Christmas plays. I grew up never having a Christmas celebration in school. We did not go and have anything like that. It was winter, it was fall, it was seasons. Nothing religion-based was done except educating us on all religions that were around and available. We did not have an opportunity in school to talk about or celebrate Christmas or celebrate Kwanzaa or celebrate any other holiday or religion. That wasn't happening. And we're talking about that here. Somebody brought up that we give a place for Ramadan. Well, yeah, we also allow our children to stand up and sing Christmas carols. That is something that we have done here, and that should be okay. But none of those things are done outside of school. I was educated, my entire education was all done, never leaving a classroom, and I learned about Ramadan, I learned about Diwali, I learned about all sorts of religions. And it wasn't about leaving a classroom to do it. It was about having an environment that was inclusive and allowed for that to happen. It was not about removing us. It was not about having us be divided, which is what this is doing to our classrooms. It is dividing our children and having them go into groups and then trying to bring them back together. And for teachers, that is a mess. A teacher's job is already hard enough. And then we expect these children to be able to get out into the workplace and function socially and have skills where they can manage and deal with each other and conflict like we're doing right now. And we're seeing the outcome of that. We are seeing the fact that when these groups are divided, what happens? When groups are not divided like this, we don't see issues like this because at a young age, they're able to say, oh, I celebrate this holiday, I celebrate this holiday, I believe in this, I don't believe in that, I have two moms, I don't have two moms. It doesn't matter to them at that age. At this point in their lives, they're parroting information. Let's say that again. They are parroting information. They are taking what they are hearing from the adults and repeating it. They are not thinking for themselves. So when we allow them to go to school and start having these conversations, they are able to learn from each other. And having recess and time together allows them to do that. And that's why I'm in full support of removing this time and removing our children from being together and having the time to learn from each other and grow their knowledge of other cultures and other religions and what other people practice at home. Because there are families who don't necessarily know much about another religion or don't take time to understand it, and those kids have an opportunity to learn about it from somebody else they are in a classroom with or they are at recess with. And that is where diversity and inclusion happens. Because when it doesn't happen that way, this is what it turns into. So I am in full agreement with rescinding this. I am sorry for all of the bullying that has happened from the bottom of my heart. You all deserve spots here. You are all part of Westerville. None of you at any point should feel like you don't belong in this community or that you are any different than anybody else, just like our children. Our children should feel like they belong here and like they are supported. You all earned your spots here, and you all deserve to be here and be supported. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Nancy Keeter.
Hi, my name is Nancy Cater. I live at 1107 Forest Glen Road, 43081. I didn't really come prepared tonight. We've been out of town, and I heard about what was going on here, and I just wanted to come and voice my opinion as well. Ditto to all these people that I do agree with. We moved here 31 years ago, and part of the reason we moved to Westerville was because of our children, because it was a good school system. And our children are grown now and moved away, but my son does have 9 children who are all in the Westerville School District. So it's important to me that I feel that this is like a cancer taking over our country. It's the same people that wanted to ban the books. It's the same people that want to take over and push Christianity down the throats of those that don't want it. I agree, if you want to have a Christian family, go to church. I'm sure you must go to church if it means that much to you, and take your children to Sunday school. Teach them at home. A public school is just that. It's for everybody. If you don't want the public education, then don't go there. It's what I pay my taxes to, is the public school system. I don't want to see it ruined by pushing people aside, calling people names. I've not been here for other meetings because, like I said, I haven't been around, but I understand it got rather ugly, and I think that's unfortunate. It's an inclusive community, it's diverse, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way America should be. And I don't think we should be excluding anybody for religion, race, sexual orientation, anything. And that's what's happening in this country, and I think it needs to stop in Westerville. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Ifra. I'm a little intimidated by the last name. Can you help me? Aliwa? My apologies.
Good evening. My name is Ifra Alial. I'm really pleased to be here. I wanted to take a moment to talk about public education as an educator. Public education is the bedrock of any functional democratic society. It is where we learn the knowledge and skills to survive and live in the world, but also, just as importantly, how to coexist with other humans, even those that are different than us or practice different religions than us. This is enabled by our shared experiences in public education. There seems to be a concerted effort to counteract the efforts of public education to be an equalizer in society for all citizens to not be only knowledgeable and productive, but also to learn how to live with others that are different from them. As an educator, I support rescinding this policy. Students belong in the classroom during the school day, but also to learn content knowledge, but also to develop socially and emotionally. Yes, SEL is important. Students learn how to regulate their emotions, self-manage, and learn social awareness and empathy. Those things matter, especially in today's world where we have constant misinformation and are bombarded with negative stereotypes about other people. As a teacher, I'm appalled at the amount of lost time that is spent on being away from the classroom. If every religious community pulls their students out during critical instruction time, we will lose this equalizing and unifying power of public education. I imagine that is the purpose of some people, to get away from others that are different from them, but I assure you, we all lose when we lose the ability to humanize each other. I want to reiterate that public education is important. It is one of the last few institutions that we have where we come together for a common good, to ensure we are preparing our children for our collective future. What we do now matters, the choices we make right now matter, and we need to choose to come together and choose what brings us together time and again, public education. And time in the classroom is a necessary component of that, not optional. Please rescind this policy so students can stay in the classroom where they belong. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your grace, too. Next up, we have Marianne. Marianne Warsana, is that? Okay, sorry, I couldn't read that. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Miriam Warsama, and I am an alumni of Westerville Central. My little brother is a Westerville South student, and my baby nephew is a future Westerville City School student. Earlier, somebody said that this vote will send an alarming message to other programs across the country. But maybe it's not an alarm, it is a wake-up call. Perhaps this type of programming should be called into question. As it stands, is it in the best interest of the students, or is it in the best interest of a certain organization? The National Center for Education Statistics administered reading and mathematics assessments to 13-year-old students from October to December of the 2022 to 23 school year. The average scores for 13-year-olds declined 4 points in reading and 9 points in mathematics compared to the previous assessment administered during the 2019-2020 school year. Compared to a decade ago, the average scores declined 7 points in reading and 14 points in mathematics. I am, of course, not blaming this release program or LifeWise for this drop in test scores, but there is something to be said about how best to allocate public school hours for academic enrichment and not something that, as has been said before, can be done outside of school hours. I'm Muslim, and a lot of Muslim youth in America have been going to weekend classes for Islamic religious education growing up because it isn't necessary to have me leave the classroom to practice or learn about my religion. The assertion is preposterous and not based in a lot of people's realities. Additionally, likening LifeWise to things like field trips is incredibly disingenuous. Field trips are a form of experiential learning and are proven to be beneficial to children's development because they help develop critical thinking skills, expand their worldview, and above all, field trips provide enrichment for all students, not any one religion, because every kid loves the zoo, of course. Somebody commented that the pledge says one nation under God, not Allah, and it has been corrected earlier that ironically, Allah is just Arabic for Lord or God. So maybe a couple more hours in school would have been beneficial to that individual. Thank you for your time and due diligence, and thank you for prioritizing the education of Westerville students.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment period. So next up. Oh, I'm sorry, there's another sheet. Oh, there's a few more sheets. Okay. There's only a few, sorry. I mean, they didn't fill up the page, my apologies. All right, next up is Joanne Gross. All right. Sherry Connell? Oh. Is Joanne coming? Oh, my apologies. Welcome, Joanne.
Hello, I'm Joanne Gross from Westerville. I'm here in strong support of LifeWise Academy because it teaches biblical lessons to help kids succeed in school and life. A study was performed last October by Thomas Miller and Associates. They're a renowned national consulting firm. They received their data from school boards around Ohio, Indiana, and Iowa. This is for the school years 2017 through 2022. Summary of the report is as follows, and all results are considered statistically significant for each of the LifeWise years of participation. Year 1, positive correlation between attendance rates at LifeWise and improved school-wide attendance. Year 2, lower number of students receiving in-school suspensions for disobedient and disruptive behavior, and lower in-school suspension days. Year 3, lower out-of-school suspensions and decreased number of out-of-school suspension days. For each of the above behavioral categories, the decrease is more significant for each additional year of LifeWise programming. From a quantitative perspective, the statistical evidence of LifeWise's positive impact on school attendance and discipline rates is strong per the report. And again, this is from the state school boards. I think we can all agree that we want better attendance, improved behavior, and safer schools. This data shows that LifeWise plays a positive role in improving behavior and making schools safer for students and teachers alike. The board has stated concern for this program causing unwanted disruptions, but the data shows that LifeWise participation seems to actually help decrease behavioral disruptions. In addition, the students do not miss out on instructional coursework, and disruptions are only 1 day per week for 1 hour. However, the benefit that LifeWise brings to the students and schools is at no cost to the schools. And in addition, this is strictly voluntary, and you don't need to attend if you do not want your child to attend. There is a couple of testimonials from educators as part of the study that I'd like to read. This is a principal from an urban school district. LifeWise has made a positive impact on students' attendance, behavior, and social emotional well-being. It provides confidence and a sense of belonging for students. They have learned compassion. Our school's average daily attendance goal is 90% or above each day. Consistently, on the day that our students participate in LifeWise, grades 4 and 5 meet or surpass our attendance goal. In addition, disciplinary infractions for students who participate in LifeWise have decreased by more than 50%. Also, a teacher wrote, "A young lady who was enrolled in LifeWise is known to be very aggressive and had told everyone on the playground that she was going to fight another student. She had advertised it so much that she even shared it with the prayer group at LifeWise. The group leader suggested that she forgive the girl who offended her, but the young girl was adamant that the fight was going down. She went back to recess and something came over her, and she was reminded of the teacher's words. Instead of going through with the fight, she marched up and very matter-of-factly stated, 'I've decided to forgive the girl because my LifeWise teacher told me to forgive.' And then she walked away." LifeWise has a demonstrated positive impact on students in schools. The reasons being given to terminate the relationship do not appear to line up with the data from the evidence in the analysis. Quite the contrary. LifeWise participation appears to reduce behavioral disruptions and improve attendance. These would have the effect of increased learning, improved social and emotional well-being, and improved school safety. Therefore, according to the data, the board's current plan to terminate the relationship with LifeWise may have the effect of decreased attendance, more suspensions, and decreased school safety.
All
Thank you.
right. Next up is Sherry Connell. Sherry Connell. Oh, welcome.
Hello, Sherry Connell. I am a Westerville resident, greater than 30 years. Many members of my family have either graduated from Westerville schools and presently have children and a grandson in Westerville schools. I know that there is a lot of passion around all of these speakers. I appreciate the board taking the time to listen to all the members of the community who are wishing to come forward and make comments. I respect your time. I respect the leadership that you bring to our community, and I trust that you will make an informed and objective decision at the end. I do need to speak a little bit about the negative comments that have been made about the LifeWise program. My oldest sister played a significant role in raising me, and she emulates Jesus on this earth greater than any other individual I've ever witnessed in my life. She gives countless hours back to her community, the children in her community, the adults in her community. She loves everyone, and she shows all of them tremendous love and respect. And she did significant research on the LifeWise program, and she was one of the leaders in the first church in Cincinnati public schools to get LifeWise approved. And I can assure you that if there were negative things being taught to the students, that there's no way my sister would have been a part of bringing that program alive. So I want to set the record straight. I don't think all of the negative information, there may be a bad apple here and there. I think you could go anywhere and find a bad apple, but I do not believe that the overall organization should receive the negative comments that it has. One of the things that I also wanted to point back to is I really recognize the great work that was done recently by our sportsmanship campaign that was presented at the August 12th meeting. And I believe that the reason our school gave such great support to that program is because they recognize the value and the benefits that sports bring to our students. And not every student obviously participates in the sports program, so it is a percentage of our population. It's not the entire population. But I think this board and many leaders in our school system supported that work because they think it's worthwhile to support the value that sports bring to students. So what I would really like to see is for us to make even a fraction of that amount of energy being invested in making the LifeWise program or RTRI policy overall, regardless of which program is happening. Let's make a small investment in making that successful within this school system to support those who are benefiting from the religious instruction that they are receiving. I think that's probably all of my points. I thank you for your time, and I obviously support the retention of the RTRI policy and the benefits that it brings to those who are choosing to attend. I guess the only other comment is reminding everyone that if you personally or those in the community personally do not believe in the teachings of LifeWise, do not believe in the people who are being hired by that organization, it is a choice. But the parents who have chosen to send their children to this program, they also should have the same choice to allow their children to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Peg Kissel. Sorry. It's a little hot mic. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you again for allowing this public discussion. I respect and am thankful. I am thankful that so many people are involved in this. My primary point is to say that this, as I understand it, is not a religious decision. We're not voting on religion versus non-religion. We're not voting on one religion versus another. Unfortunately, certainly, media in terms of headlines that one sees in the paper have billed this as a vote on the LifeWise program. And in my opinion, this is not a vote for or against LifeWise, for or against any religious education. This is a constitutional issue. This is about separation of religion from public education. Nothing more. I am a Christian. As you can see from the comments tonight, there are many branches of the Jesus movement. As we've seen from other comments, there are many ways to express one's faith. In my opinion, those things should not be part of or time taken out of a public education. Freedom of religion is enhanced by separation of church and state. It is during the public school day, as many others have said it more eloquently than I can, that we learn to accept each other we learn to live peaceably with differences. I am fully supportive of religious education. I do not believe it should be taken from the school day. And furthermore, I have been hearing tonight, I don't know if LifeWise is good or bad, but for those of you who passionately believe it has value, I pray that you will find a way to support this important work that you feel you're doing outside of the public school day. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jamal Salhi. Jamal Salhi? Anybody walking up? I can't see. Okay. Cynthia Patrick? Someone walking. I can't see. No. Courtney Williams? Welcome.
My name is Courtney Williams, and I live in Westerville in the Westerville City School District. I apologize for having to use my band mom voice a moment ago. That also explains the dress. I came straight from the practice field, and the pink hair in support of the North Marching Band show titled Red, which is excellent, and you should all come to a game and see it. I did not come here intending to speak, but found myself signing on just in case, so I will not speak. I will certainly just share a story that belongs to every single person in this room who has been in this room and is no longer in this room. We all care for a child in some way, and that caring leads us to walk into the doors of a school at some point. If you walk into the doors of a school at some point, and there comes a time when a drill is begun, those doors lock, and you are now a part of that drill. It happened to me when I took my lunch to my child at a middle school. And suddenly I found myself being led by 12-year-olds into the nurse's office and being shown how to barricade us in to protect us from the shooter as part of a lockdown drill. What do you use in a nurse's office to barricade the door? Do you use the skeleton that the nurse dresses up for holidays? Do you use the bed that's about 80 years old, it seems? Do you stand it on end? How heavy are those metal file cabinets that the sixth grader is trying to push in front of the window so a shooter couldn't look in? It's no wonder our kids are anxious and depressed and angry and disillusioned. They don't have a choice not to participate in this. We don't have a choice to cooperate with this board to keep our children safe. But you, under the law of the state of Ohio, have a choice. It's been a while since I took con law in my legal education, but I try to read as much as I can so that I remember how to do it. And if I read the statute correctly, Ohio Revised Code annotated section 3313.6022 says, a school district board of education may authorize students to attend a released time course for religious instruction. That may does not turn into a must because of the mere passage of time, because people have gotten used to it. You can change your mind, as I have told my children. That's my right as a mother. It is hard to have things taken away from you. I understand. I've had things taken away from me. because I've gotten used to having them. We have gotten used to having education include a certain religious tenet for decades. That is not how it is taught now. But because we become used to it, it doesn't make it right. I support this being reversed because you have the discretion. And in my understanding, in my study of constitutional law, it is not only the actual practice of preferring one religion over another that is barred, it is the appearance of favoring one over the other. What are our children seeing when the red buses pull up? How does it appear to them? How do they feel as one who's not getting on the bus? We have to avoid everything that appears to be a violation of the law. We have to avoid everything that appears to inure benefits to a certain population over the other. But I want to go back to the nurse's office. Our children should not be teaching us how to keep them safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker for the night, and I'm checked, is Joel Penton.
Members of the board, my name is Joel Penton. I live in Hilliard. The local team asked me to share a few words. I really don't have much to add. Particularly Jennifer Jury, our local director, said it well. I think I would just say that we believe parents should be able to decide what's best for their own children. Release time is a standard practice, as our Attorney General Dave Yost recently wrote. It is neither new nor controversial. Again, 75% of school districts across the state have programs. A variety of things have been said, have policies in place. A variety of things have been said about LifeWise, of course, but this policy is not about LifeWise, it's not about Christianity. It is about religious instruction. And tonight, at this moment, the families, the parents of Westerville have a particular religious liberty called Release Time Religious Instruction. Please do not take that away from them tonight. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our public commenting period. Thank you, everyone. Next up is standing business. And may I have a motion to approve the Employee Assistance Program with Matrix?
So moved. Second. Excuse me, second.
Any comments, discussion?
Just a great presentation. Thank you so much for bringing that.
Yeah.
And I'm
Thanks
sorry
for
it had to be
setting it up.
rushed. And yeah.
I do think this will be a valuable program for our staff, and I really look forward to rolling it out with your approval tonight, so thank you.
All right, will you take the vote?
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Liebing?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes. And may I have a motion to rescind Policy 5223, absences for religious instruction?
So moved. Second.
I have some comments, actually. It's been a long night. So I know last time I had said that I've been thinking a lot about this. This is something that I've been working on quite a bit. And, I wrote my comments down because I've been thinking about it a lot. We've had a lot of commentary over the past few meetings and have received a lot of emails. We really appreciate all of the emails and speakers' comments and appreciate democracy, and that's what's happening here tonight. We want to thank the community for taking the time to share their thoughts and opinions with us. As I stated last time, and I just stated, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about Policy 5223, so I wanted to reiterate my comments tonight with a few additions, but want to remind everyone that rescinding this policy does not restrict religious instruction. This instruction can happen before or after school. As stated at our last meeting, the school board became aware of some compliance issues with our absence for religious instruction policy 5223 through a community member. As I started to look into this issue, I became concerned about taking kids out of school. As I stated at the last meeting, I have significant concerns about the distractions caused by pulling kids out of school during the middle of the day. We have such limited time with the students, and there's a lot of that needs to happen to ensure they transition in and out of school safely and efficiently. Also, while recess is important for allowing students to blow off steam and return ready to learn, it's crucial to their development. The cognitive, social, emotional, and physical benefits of play are well documented, and we heard some of them tonight, but they're documented by organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and others. I continue to really remain puzzled by the strong push to operate programs that require kids to leave school during the middle of the school day, especially when students interested in such programs could be dropped off before school or picked up afterward. This approach could even alleviate childcare issues for parents on certain days or altogether, while still providing religious instruction. Programs offering religious instruction could pick students up after school, provide childcare, provide religious instruction, and then parents could pick their child up on their way home from work, like many do with others after-school programs. I'd really like to stress this. So let me state it again, because as I listened to the speakers and read the emails from people objecting to the potential rescinding of Policy 5223, I want to remind everyone that removing the policy is not taking away the opportunity for such a program to operate outside of the school day. I'm also continuing to be mindful and concerned about the potential strain on resources if multiple programs were to operate during the school day. Ensuring legal compliance for each program, as well as managing the logistics of taking kids coming in and going out of school, would require significant staff and resources. Rescinding this policy would be consistent with how we handled another situation where social support liaisons were meeting with students during the school day. We maintained these meetings while during lunch or recess were disruptive to the school day in the buildings, so we discontinued the practice. There's been a lot of misinformation circulating, a lot, so I want to make one thing very clear. The concern around this policy has nothing to do with any specific religion or religious programs in general. It's about utilizing the time we have with students in school to focus on educating them and minimizing disruptions to the school day for students, teachers, and staff. I believe my position allows for both goals to be accomplished. Kids get their full day in school and can participate in a religious program outside of school time. It's not an either or. I also remain concerned about liability. Initially, again, when we realized the program violated our policy in the Ohio Revised Code, we focused on a solution that ensured compliance with the law. As we've been looking at these release time programs, my apprehension remains about this and the attention and energy that it takes to ensure that any future programs are in compliance with the law, which again demands additional resource and diverts us from our core mission. Again, the concern is about keeping students at school, and I believe that these types of programs should occur outside of the limited time that we have students at school. Now, I understand this decision tonight may invoke a range of emotions, and I anticipate more in the coming days. However, again, I urge everyone to focus on the well-being of the students in this district and refrain from spreading misinformation or even worse, hate. We have so many wonderful things happening in our schools, we truly do. And this district is filled with amazing students, staff, teachers, and community members who care deeply about the more than 14,700 children we serve. Let's come back together for the benefit of all these children, which are our future. All right.
Just one thing.
Yeah, please.
I want to support President Meyer's comments. Thank you for those. And I'm just going to make an appeal here about children. So however you feel about this, when you leave this room, if there are children that you're talking to about this decision, I, as a school board member, have listened. I thank you for everyone coming to speak, and my decision is based on my best understanding of what is best for children. It comes from my care for children. And if you tell them anything other than that, you're misrepresenting how I've come to my decision. So please, just at least reflect that honestly if you have children in your lives who you're talking to. Thank you.
All right.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Valentine?
Yes.
Mrs. Levan?
I abstain.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes. All right, the board will meet in regular session on Monday, October 14th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the Early Learning Center, which is here, 936 Eastwind Drive, Westerville, Ohio, 43081. Thank you. Oh, may I have a motion to adjourn? Thanks.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, Nicole.